Are we ready? Do we?
Let's fuck this pig.
Are we recording?
We are. We've been recording.
What are we recording?
Yeah.
Well, let's just jump into it. We are the History Boys. I'm
We're the
Tyler.
History Boy.
We're the History Boys.
Yeah.
I'm a
You
History
heard
Boy.
the theme song.
Yeah.
You know who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Jerry. I'm a history boy.
Jerry's a History Boy. Chris is a History Boy. I'm Chris.
I'm Zach. I'm also a history boy.
Dope.
All right, so...
And so are you. You're a history
Who are you?
yeah.
Ted Cruz.
Oh, who, me? Oh, no, I said I'm Tyler.
I fucking hate that joke.
It's a bad joke.
It's not a bad joke if you say a bad joke in repetition. It's hilarious. That's like our signature style.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Talk about a sticky situation.
Jesus.
Call back.
And here we go. We're off to the races.
Jerry, what are we talking about today?
This one actually comes from a friend of the show.
We have friends?
Yeah. This comes from Jacob Morgan.
Oh, hey,
who
Jacob.
is a friend of the show. Hello, Jacob. I know he's listening.
Yeah.
He was
waving
Tyler's best man at his wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at my bachelor party... Was it my bachelor party that he...
No, it was on your wedding.
Oh, okay. That he mentioned this story to you.
Yeah.
And it was a pre-History Boys situation.
It was.
if I remember correctly. So
I believe so.
yeah, we
yes.
hadn't recorded any
Were
episodes
you just
yet.
like,
planned on
we didn't
it.
even have a name. You were just like, I want to do a history
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah. It was before we did anything, and he was like, "Dude, this is a really good story." And I kind of kept it in the back of my brain, and I read the book Endurance, which is our source for this, and it is fantastic, and I recommend it to anyone. And yeah,
If you're familiar with the book, then you know what the subject is.
yeah,
We're doing Ernest Shackleton.
yeah, and the voyage of the Endurance.
Ernest Shackleton.
Yes.
Well, and
And
honestly,
dance.
I was...
Dance. Is that right?
No.
No, I was gonna say I was gonna say that typically I'm a huge fan of Ernest. I've seen when he saved Christmas.
Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yes, stupid.
He got the electric chair.
Yeah, and he got powers from
And then
it.
there's the one where he got stuck in Antarctica.
And
Yeah.
and that's what I thought this was, and I was really pumped. I was like, "Hey, Vern, I'm stuck in the Arctic," and then here we
They
are.
should
It's not
make
the
a
same
movie.
guy.
Is that guy still
No,
alive?
Jim Varney's very dead.
Yeah, dude.
He's a guy. Jim Varney doesn't seem like a guy who could have lived a long time.
No,
You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't gonna make it.
he was hard living, man.
Was he?
I don't know.
look at him.
I was making.
What did he die of?
I think lung cancer.
A bus hit him.
Oh, okay.
How do you think he gets
Sorry.
that sultry tone for the Slinky Dog
May he
in
rest
Toy
in peace.
Story?
I'm sorry, Jim Varney's loved ones. I didn't mean to make light of his unfortunate passing.
Yes.
But
Thank you, Chris.
it was hard living, and you know it.
They know better than we do.
Yeah.
So Ernest Shackleton, Jerry.
Yeah. The year is 1914, and Ernest Shackleton has just set out on a voyage to be the first to cross the Antarctic continent. But it wasn't to be. His ship, the Endurance, was devoured by the unrelenting ice packs of the most hostile place on Earth. This story is about his steadfastness in the face of failure, his leadership, survival, courage, heroism, and unrelenting endurance.
I actually didn't know the Arctic was in White Center.
That's the Arctic, Tyler. We're talking about the Antarctic, the South.
Oh, so he wasn't going there to find Santa Claus at all.
No.
Anti-Arctic.
Yeah.
Reverse Arctic.
He was trying to find Anti-Claus.
Yeah.
He takes presents away from children.
The anti-clause.
When Ernest Shackleton was 16, he left the boarding school that his parents put him in, and he joined up on a British Navy boat, and instantly just started
Digging the vibes, eating the lime juice, the whole thing.
Yeah, traveling the world, man. He was a born adventurer. He went with Robert Scott to Antarctica as well, and their mission was to go just to the pole, to the South Pole, and they got 400 miles away from it, and they had to turn back. And I guess Robert Scott wasn't a super good leader, he wasn't great. By most accounts, he was kind of an asshole.
Robert.
I expect as much, seeing as he wants people to go to the Antarctic with him. Like,
You guys want to cross the Antarctic?
This
Yeah.
was kind of like the last age of exploration.
Yeah.
Just like there's
And also-
one current continent nobody's crossed
Yeah.
because it sucks.
It was like the last frontier, yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like if there's one girl left at the party, it's usually for a reason.
Oh God, I can't help but
Almost
think that.
Or
out
guy,
here.
or guy. I'm just saying. It could go either way, but, you know.
Oh, I've been that guy many times.
Oh,
I've been that guy.
I've been
I
that
just
girl.
can't help but think that that Scott was like so much of a hard ass dad that like Ernest Shackleton annoyed the shit out of him. He's like, you know what? We're turning around.
Well, actually,
Not going to the South Pole.
you're not far off. Actually, he told Shackleton that he didn't like his face. And he told Shackleton to go back. And, like, it hurt him so much that 6 years later, he himself took another stab at making it to the South Pole. This time he, like, took, like, ponies with him.
Yeah.
Oh, ponies.
Yeah. He made it 97 miles away from the pole before he had to make the agonizing choice to turn back.
Should have brought horses.
97 miles is not far, like in the grand scheme of things. Now, Shackleton had failed twice, and it really weighed on him, especially because they were eventually beaten to the South Pole by the Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. He's Norwegian. I can't pronounce
Bet you he's a
almost
dick.
any of that.
Oh, yeah. He kept trying to shoot that dog, but it was actually a thing.
Wait, what?
Remember the Norwegian?
Thing.
Yeah, let's moving on. The Thing.
I got
Oh, the
it.
movie,
The
the,
movie, The
thing.
Thing.
Yeah, John
Beginning.
Carpenter.
Oh,
Like 1 minute in that movie, Norwegians are shooting at a dog.
but that dog had aliens inside him.
That dog was an alien.
Well, I mean, I thought that the aliens were inside of him the whole time. He just
don't-
didn't know it.
Aliens they're all over the place in that movie.
And that's one thing
They
that
don't
I
know
want
who
you
has the
folks
alien.
to take away from this is that the aliens are inside you already.
Maybe your loved ones are aliens and they're going to turn into like weird creatures and kill you.
I was
The Thing.
I was going for a more like, you know, like the strength was inside you.
That's
the
what
whole
I was.
time,
That's
yeah.
what I was kind of like.
And then Chris
turns
went-
out the
No.
alien was in you the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what Ridley Scott was trying to say in his film.
He's like, you can't.
Glad
You really,
And
Ridley Scott.
what are you talking?
He's talking about aliens
Gladiator?
now
Yeah.
rather than the thing.
And then I did a hard turn to try
Well,
to
he
flip
didn't
the
do
table.
aliens.
All right, he did
Well, he did
alien. I'm
Alien.
sorry.
Oh my god. Okay. It's starting to make more sense now, but boy, you really jumped off the high dive on that one.
I did my grease joke early this time.
Yeah.
All right,
Norwegian listeners, please let us know what you think of Roald Amundsen. Or
Yeah, see, he can't do it either.
yeah,
Raoul Almond.
I'm not
Almondson.
white.
Yeah.
I'm not that kind
Ray
of white.
Assman. That's what I'm
Nice.
calling him.
Ray Assman.
There's two kinds of men in the world. I got a 50-50 that I'm right on this one.
So Shackleton was a middle-class guy. He was well-liked, and by all accounts, he just had a magnetic personality.
Romance, man.
Yeah, he absolutely was. And, like, his face was, like, kind of scarred from being in the Antarctic those
Cool.
other two times. So people could see, like, the adventure, like, on his face.
They're just haunted.
He's like, you know what
Yeah.
place sucks? Antarctic. Been there twice.
Yeah.
Want to go again?
He married, he had kids, etc., you know, but soon the pull to adventure overtook him once again.
He hated his wife.
Yeah.
She's like, when
Read
you
between
gonna
the
take
lines.
out the trash? She's like, I gotta go back to the
You're
Arctic.
like,
I gotta go to the Antarctic.
Oh my god.
is he saying Arctic each
He
time?
keeps saying Arctic.
It's so much easier to say.
Antarctic.
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 Antarctica.
Antarctic.
Thank you.
It's my aunt, Arctica.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that's where ants come from.
Good
Yeah.
job. No, Zach, no.
Have
Nothing
you
less
ever been there? Then you don't know.
Except-
Penguins and seals and stuff, but not even inland.
Like
How do
on
we
the
know he
edges.
wasn't trying to go there to get all those sweet, sweet ants? Miles
Okay.
under the ice.
There happens. That's where fire ants actually come from. Antarctica.
It's kind of an ironic thing. Anyway,
Jerry's not happy.
So we found a Norwegian shipbuilder that turned the construction of Shackleton's ship into a bit of a pet project. because this kind of ship, he was going for a wooden ship. Those wooden ships at this time were on their way out. We're starting to build metal ships now.
Because they're objectively better.
Yeah, but it was kind of like the last of its kind, and so like they got these master shipbuilders to come in and make sure that it was, had armor on it for the Antarctic and whatnot. It's made out of really strong wood.
Wait, was the armor metal?
Chainmail.
I'm not really going to get into the minutia of how it was built. In Endurance, they kind of get into that. Okay. It was a really strong wood. Their ship was objectively stronger than most wooden ships of the time. Is what I'm just.
But not stronger than a metal ship.
They actually got the boat to be humiliated by a really hot chick, and it just made the wood so hard.
This was after the Titanic, right?
Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah, they were like, fuck that metal shit.
Yeah.
We're going old school on this.
We're going wood. We're going to crash into an entire continent of ice, and it'll be fine.
So Shackleton christened the boat the Endurance. It was named the Polaris, but he called it the Endurance instead.
Well, no one could decide whether it was going to be the North Polaris or the South Polaris. And he was like, fuck it, it's the Endurance.
It's the South Polaris. He wanted to name it the Kraken, and everyone was all pissed about it.
Timely, Chris.
Seattle hockey.
Now, there's a legend that Shackleton ran one of the most famous ads of all time. Here's what it said, verbatim. Men wanted for hazardous journey. Low wages, bitter cold, long hours of complete darkness, safe return doubtful. Honor and recognition in the event of success.
Hell yeah.
That sounds like the worst grinder profile ever.
To be honest, you had me at low wages.
But that's most certainly bullshit. He was reasonably famous, and he got like 5,000 applications anyway, because people kind of knew who he was, and there was really no record of that ad ever being placed ever, or him ever taking out an ad. There's no record of any of that. It was that ad, quote unquote ad, was in some book that was published, I think it was like the late 1800s, of like the greatest ads of all time.
Okay.
Or
late
something
1800s.
Like that. Yeah.
So
like
it was essentially
it was for this.
Yeah.
It was a meme.
It
It was like a meme or like a clickbait article of the time.
I want to say it was it was definitely turn of the century, something like that this like book was published with like all these great ads. Anyway, probably bullshit. Like 99% sure that it's bullshit.
The wages were good.
Yeah.
They were fair for the time.
It was verbatim except high wages.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
although I don't really know how much they were paid. Could still be low wages.
I would say based off the outcome of this, not enough.
Not enough, yes. So he started interviewing these applicants, and his interviews didn't really last longer than 5 minutes, and he would kind of hire people, like, based off of, like, their face, or, like, what they said in response, like,
Isn't what you said in response how
that's kind
most
of
interviews go?
Yeah, but, like, he would, like, make a joke, and, like, what you'd say in response. Or sometimes he'd be like, can you sing? I was like, well, I guess. And he's like, I just want to know if you'd be able to shout with the boys every once in a while. And he's like, and it's like, yeah, I can do that. And he's like, you're hired.
He's like,
Is that cool enough? Show me your dick.
Yeah, right.
That's a
what's
pretty
your
cool
favorite
dick.
animal? And he's like, I don't know, frog? Frog is wrong.
Yeah, right.
That's a Seinfeld
How
reference.
many ping pong balls can you fit in a VW Beetle? So essentially what I'm saying is his children went on to write the interview process for Google.
Yeah.
Just the weirdest fucking interviews.
Yeah. So some of these guys that they brought along, I'll just introduce a couple of the like major ones that we're going to talk about.
Tell us about the boys.
Oh, they're back in town.
There was a crew of 28 that he would eventually take. A couple of them, I'll just mention real quick. Frank Wild was his second in command. There's a lot of Franks in this story. I don't know how they kept it straight. Maybe I think they called each other by their last name.
I think they were all just frank with each other.
God damn it.
Frank Worsley was the captain of the Endurance. And I'll kind of get into what their plan was, because Shackleton was their leader, but like Worsley was the captain of the ship. And this will make sense a little later. Lionel Greenstreet was his first officer. Tom Crean was his second officer.
Lionel Greenstreet sounds like he would come out with a fucking fantastic R&B album.
Right? And actually, most of the story kind of comes from...
Sex James with Lionel Greenstreet.
Yeah. From their diaries, and Greenstreet actually had a really good diary that survived and pulls a lot of information to this story. Hubert Hudson was his navigator. He's kind of a military guy. Alexander Macklin and James McElroy were like the doctors. They were surgeons. And the crazy part about this is like they just got like these prestigious licenses to perform surgery.
But they were frauds, and they didn't want to have to operate because they know they'd be found out. So
No, they were not frauds. Frank Hurley was their photographer, and we're actually going to post some of his amazing photos on our social media as well that did survive this trip.
Unfortunately, none of those photos are of the voyage. They're all portraits that he did before and after the voyage. But they're really nice.
Kind of haunting, some of those pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they're
Really
crazy,
fucking
some of them.
grim.
Well, and you know that like they're like freezing to death in some of them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He's like, you starving? You freezing? Let me get a snap.
Yeah. Thomas Orde-Lees was the storekeep and a motor expert, and they had a motor. They had like this motorized thing that ended up being useless, but he was also a military man as well. He kind of knew the inner workings of how to be on a ship.
Oi, I understand the steam engine. I made a steam-powered monkey out of brass. And they're like, good enough.
There was Harry Chippy McNeish. He was a master carpenter. He would make all these, retrofitting and he'd fix up the boat all the time. There was Charles Green. He was the cook. People kind of thought he was like a little bonkers because he was totally disorganized in his kitchen. He was kind of a weird dude, and he spoke with kind of a high voice because he lost a testicle in an accident before this.
So, like every other chef.
Yeah.
Is what you're
So
saying.
he was the Gordon Ramsay of his day. Also,
This trip is fucking raw.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
just eating fucking just raw penguin meat. He's like, finally some good fucking food.
So yeah, they were from all over the place too. Most of them were English, but we had a lot of Irish people. Frank Worsley was a New Zealander, and so was Greenstreet. By the way, hello, our New Zealand listeners.
We got a guy from your country in it.
There's a bunch of them out there. I see them, and that's really cool. I think that's awesome that they listen to our show. Thank you so much. There were Scottish and Australian. There was even an American, although he kind of claimed to be Canadian.
I would. Yeah.
That's kind of what
Some
we
things
want to
never
do.
change.
Yeah.
He was traveling abroad.
Alexander Macklin was actually Indian,
Okay.
which is interesting.
Which is pretty much British at that point in time.
Yeah. So the original plan was this. Sail south from Buenos Aires, because they would sail from England to Buenos Aires. They would stop at the whaling station on the island of South Georgia, which is the southernmost whaling station in the world at this point.
Where is that connected to? Just so I can build a picture in my mind.
Antarctica.
Oh.
Yeah. Then they would venture through the ice packs of the Weddell Sea, which is a very hostile place, as
Very
we'll find
wet
out.
sea.
Yeah. They would cross the 1,800 miles of the Antarctic continent and make their exit on the Ross Sea on the other side. And what the Endurance would do is they drop off a group of 6 men that were going to do that overland trip, and then they would go around and
Scoop
pick them up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm so sad that I don't have a good David Schwimmer impersonation for the Ross Sea. Like,
We'd all be Ross.
yeah, you know,
The dictators of the world are Monicas, but other than that,
Everyone's-
we're all Ross.
Yeah.
Everyone's Ross.
everyone's Ross.
There are no
Such-
Chandlers.
There's no such thing as a Joey or a Phoebe. Sorry.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be Chandler because he's a funny one.
I only know about it from reruns and syndication when I was a child.
Because it was on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And by
cultural-
child,
I
I mean
wanted to watch The
teenager.
Simpsons, but it was
Yeah, if you wanted to
unfortunately
watch,
not on.
if you wanted to watch 4 episodes of Simpsons, you had to watch it sandwiched between episodes of Friends, Third Rock from the Sun, and King of the Hill.
Yeah,
in the late
I
90s.
love King of the Hill.
King of the Hill, yeah.
To each their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only times to do this trip in the Antarctic is during the summer. And the Antarctic summer is from November to March. And March is pushing it. You have to end by March. You start too early, you start too late, and you're going to die. It will kill you. There's just no way you're going to
And they
make
just
it.
walk across the ice?
Yeah, you walk across the barren, ice-filled, blizzard-ravaged desert that it is.
But think about all the delicious penguin that they
Is
would
it
be eating.
Not on the inland.
is it like mountainous or is it like
It is treacherous. And we'll post some modern-day pictures of the interior of Antarctica just to show you how
because I know it's cold as shit.
awful it can be.
And-
but it is rough terrain.
Yeah.
Those
Rough
pictures
terrain.
that we're posting will just be pictures of glasses of water, like lukewarm water, because, we're in a bit of a situation.
Modern times, yeah.
Modern times. Yes. They took with them 69 sled dogs and the 28 men, and a lot of these men were like scientists, doctors, and sailors, and just general adventurers, and they needed to bring scientists with them to legitimize the trip so Shackleton could fund it properly.
They were puppets.
Sort of. I mean, they were interested in going to where man has pretty much never been.
Well, they were hoping that they were going to Frankenstein someone. They're like, 3 of these guys are going to die. We're going to make them one super cool guy. Also, 69 sled dogs. Nice.
I was gonna bring that up. I was
I
gonna
know.
say,
I know.
wait, how many
69.
sled dogs?
Yeah. Now, they were supposed to have 27 men with them, but who was the 28th? His name was Percy Blackborough, and he was a stowaway. When they went to Buenos Aires, there was a couple of guys that kind of helped him aboard and hid him in a closet and fed him food. But then
They had a pet.
yeah, but then he was found out, and Shackleton was furious, and he berated him and all this stuff. He's and he even told him, he said, if we ever get to a point where we're starving and we need to eat somebody, you're the first.
Dope.
Nice.
He was like, I'm only escaping onto the boat because I hate my wife and kids. And he's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And
Did we
then
just
at
become
that
best
moment,
friends?
they connected. Because they both
Tyler, you're
left
making a lot of hating your wife jokes.
Well, all I'm saying is, right after he said that Shackleton became a family man, he immediately wanted to escape to the Antarctic. Okay? That's the only reason I'm making it. I love my wife. Okay?
I could cut that out if you want.
And you know what? I've never tried to plan an expedition to the Antarctic.
That's a great point.
Only Palm
not yet.
Springs. And only for a weekend. A long weekend. It's not the same thing.
Like a Thursday to Tuesday.
Yeah,
It's
that's not even...
so clearly not the same
Yeah.
thing.
I'm not willing to put myself in death's way in order just to not be in the house anymore.
Palm Springs.
He just
is
wants
your
a quiet
Antarctica.
place to do
I love it.
Sudoku.
Why did he stow? Did he know where they were going when he stowed away?
I don't know why he stowed away, but adventure. The call to adventure.
I feel like
Those
Yeah,
days,
Dad.
those were the heroes. There were no movie stars back then. The adventurers and the explorers, those are the heroes.
Oh.
And these are some of the last people that
you're
did
like,
this.
I want to be in the moving pictures, except they don't have moving pictures. They just
The
I mean, they
moving
sorta
pictures
do,
were
but-
just your life.
But there was no
What,
there was
you
no
moved-
legit movie stars.
it was the adventurers.
Yeah.
What about Charlie Chaplin?
Well,
Not-
he existed, but it was
I know, I get what you're
he
saying.
wasn't a star.
I'm splitting hairs.
You didn't want to be a star yet. You know what I mean? You wanted to be famous for going to the ends of the earth.
Being all heroic and shit.
Exactly. Yeah, fortune and glory. On November 5th, 1914, the Endurance landed at the whaling station on South Georgia. Now, the whalers, although they partied with the Endurance crew all the
Nice.
time, they actually tried to talk them out of going any further south until next season because it was a bad year for the ice pack. They were just noticing a lot more ice down there. And they're like, yeah, dude, it's a bad year. You should probably just wait.
They're
They
like,
should have gone in 2020.
yeah.
Yeah, right? It's like, no.
And also, I'd imagine, they just like partying with them, They're
they
like,
did.
You
They're
guys
like,
are cool
"Don't go.
guys.
I
We're
wanna
cool
party."
guys. We don't want the party to stop.
Oh,
You know?
dude, Actually, real funny story. Hubert Hudson, he actually fell for a practical joke. So the crew like told him that there was going to be a...
Which one was Hubert Hudson again? Sorry.
Hubert Hudson was their navigator.
Okay. So their navigator.
And he was kind of a doofus, and he
Yeah.
fell for a lot of jokes. But they told him that there was a costume party at the whaling manager's house.
Oh,
Nice.
And so he he put a sheet over his head. So I'm thinking he was like trying to be a ghost, but then he put a teapot on top. Maybe it's something from the time, I guess I just don't really understand.
or he's just a zany guy.
Yeah, and so like they rowed him like in a rowboat from the Endurance to like the whaling camp. And it's freezing balls down there, and he walks up to the house and opens the door, and like there's no one else that's
Well, and I
dressed.
think the
He's the only one in
issue.
costume.
Yeah.
What an idiot!
Well, no, the biggest issue was he showed up with the white sheet, and like all the other whalers were black guys, and so
Oh,
they were pretty pissed off. Naturally, and then when they took the sheet off underneath just to cover up his face, he put on black shoe polish. So it was like a double offense.
Double whammy.
Yeah, it was a double whammy. They were super mad. Luckily, he was a super cool guy and won him over. But
Although they were
It was
they were also perplexed by the teapot.
yeah, they were like, "What kind of racist
teapot
shit
was
is
the-
that?"
what's this racist ass teapot on your head?
Racist. We don't know why it's racist
Yeah.
yet, but I'm sure it is.
Yeah, there's some new level.
Yeah.
That's advanced racism.
So on December 5th, the crew set out, only to meet more of what they would soon come to understand as their enemy, the ice. The Endurance burst through the ice packs in the 24-hour daylight of the Antarctic summer. And what they would try to do is they try to kind of miss the ice packs. They would kind of try to miss them, but like Worsley kind of really liked the feeling the ship had when they just like plowed through one.
Cool.
And like everyone else is like, take it easy, dude. And he's like, I don't know, it's kind of cool when we like slam into it, and it's
I
like
get it.
it's freaking everyone out.
It sounds badass.
That's just such a Jacob Morgan thing to do. No wonder he likes this story.
yeah.
Worsley is one of my favorite characters in this whole thing. He is incredibly awesome.
I really hope he didn't approach sex the same way.
Oh, I don't think any of these guys approached sex in a way that would be okay. 5-minute interviews, and then it was just over. Slamming into the ice as hard as they could, escaping their families. These guys were real in and out boys, if you know what I mean.
So 9 slow days in, they were met with the old glaciers, and these are the ones that like don't really go anywhere.
You
Their
can't slam
walls
to
are
those.
high and steep, like they look like cliff's edges, and some of them were higher than like the ship's mast. And it's incredible to like look at these pictures of how much ice and how big it all is, and it dwarfs the boat. It is truly incredible.
Well, that much ice. I'm gonna make myself another drink.
Jeez. Okay.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Someone has to be using that ice to make cocktails. That's all I'm saying. And back
It's like,
then,
who wants another margarita?
With extra salt.
yeah, we're back there.
Soon, however, the Endurance couldn't smash through the pack any longer, even under their coal power. It was a coal-powered ship, and they could raise sail, but their coal power is what pushed them. And the ice, after a certain amount of time, because there's a lot of, like, loose ice on the top that's, like, slush, and soon, like, because it gets a little hotter and a little colder, that it formed around the boat and, like, turned to concrete around the boat.
Created
and they got
this
stuck.
delicious candy shell around the boat.
Well, it is summertime,
Yeah. So they kept like, they're like, shit, what are we gonna do? So Shackleton knew that they couldn't just get out from there and walk the distance. They couldn't just take off from there. It was way too far.
They can't go the distance.
Yeah, it would add a month to their time frame. And they're like, dude, a month is too much breathing room. There's no way we're gonna make it if we just start here. So he decided that they were just gonna wait and see if the pack opens up so they could get through.
Seems logical.
I mean,
what
else are you gonna do?
Honestly, they're the experts. I know nothing about this.
I mean, those whalers did say it was a bad idea.
But I mean, come on. Are you gonna
This is
turn
so
around?
whalers.
Are you gonna turn around at that point,
If a whaler told me something, I'd be like, nah. You kill whales.
yeah.
I don't know, man.
You
My whole thing is usually you should listen to the fucking locals.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a really good point.
That's a great point, too.
Honestly, yeah.
And also, like, you know, you can talk all your whaler smack that you want, Chris, but I got a bunch of lamps at home. They only run on blubber, and there's no other place that I'm going to be able to get the stuff I need to keep my house warm and lit.
That's
I
a
don't
good
know what
point.
century you're living in.
Like, how else am I supposed to keep my house warm and lit without whale blubber?
Yeah.
Question: have you guys actually eaten whale?
No, I never have.
It's actually pretty good.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you just eat the blubber?
I don't know. I had a whale burger in Norway, and it was fucking awesome.
I had fermented shark in Iceland.
Nice.
I
It
would
was
give that. I give that shot.
So, like, saying it was gross, it was like that weird, like, what do you call it? Like, it's that stuff, it had more flavor than anything I've ever had.
It's
in
like
the grossest-
lutefisk, or...
I think so. I
Well,
don't know.
it forms like a jelly. Like
Yeah.
a
No, no,
gelatin.
no. It was-
You're not talking about the pea shark where they literally like ferment it in urine, and it's
They
supposed to
may.
be like
I would eat it.
It's like an Icelandic delicacy, quote unquote.
But
But
they, like, don't they piss on it and bury it?
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I ate that.
No,
I don't
no,
give a
like,
shit.
Seriously?
Seriously,
Piss
this is a thing, and
Yeah.
It's
it's
sterile.
It's
I mean-
supposed to be
Drink it.
like one of the
That's
most
true.
like vile things on the world.
You only bury
Oh.
things that you hate and then things that you love. And so...
You gotta be passionate about something to bury it.
Yeah.
That's true.
Like all the people you murdered
Yeah. Or the people that you loved.
and had to murder.
Yeah. Because
They
you
were
loved...
too beautiful for this world.
Yeah. It's pillow time. It's when you bring it down on their face.
Fucking then Gacy must have loved a lot of.
Oh, he
little
loved those boys. He loved them too much.
God damn it!
So there wasn't a lot for the men to do aside from their shared chores, and everyone shared in the chores, including like the surgeons and like the scientists. Everyone had to do the ship's chores, including Shackleton. So they busied themselves doing other things because they only had to really work like 3-4 hours a day.
I like that.
Yeah, so Frank Wild, the second in command again, he taught the rest of the men about the dogs and how to drive the sleds because not a lot of them knew how to do that. So he'd take them out and like Shackleton looked at them and he was like, oh god. Like these guys suck. They suck at manning these sled teams.
I'd rather
It
just
would have
take-
helped if he interviewed properly.
Yeah.
Well, they learned.
It's like, I should have asked if you can run a sled team instead of, can you,
Sing or
Can you
what
shout with the boys?
Yeah, can you shout with the
can you put,
voice?
how many 8 balls can you put in your mouth?
If it's less than 1 but more than 4, you're out.
No. So Tom Crean, he looked after the 4 newborn puppies they had while they were on the...
Aww.
That's
Yeah.
adorable.
I want to
Yeah.
be that guy.
Yeah. That
Well,
would
you-
be great.
Yeah, I know it changes.
The rest of the men, like, they would go with, like, teams of, like, 2 or 3, and they'd go and, like, hunt seal and penguin that they found, and they'd have to butcher it immediately, because if they did it in the wrong way, they would get frostbite all over their hands.
Oh, God.
It was this cold, you guys. Like, I'll tell you more about temperature.
Even with gloves on?
You gotta butcher those penguins post haste.
Yeah, and this, like, the second they had it, like, there's
Oh,
actual...
wait, okay,
there's
I get
film,
it.
There's film of them, like, chucking, like, these big slabs of meat onto, like, their store place.
Yeah.
And they're just frozen solid. Absolutely frozen solid.
And if you had to go pee, you'd have to go out with another guy because one guy would pee and the other guy would take a tiny hammer and then hit the tip of your dick and it would break the pee.
Yeah. Which shatter your dick.
Yeah. Well, you have to shatter it before you have to shatter it at the right moment.
Yeah, but
So-
everybody fucked it up, and by the end they all had shattered dicks.
Their dicks were just shattered.
So they brought 3 guns with them. They brought a .38 revolver, a 12-gauge shotgun, and a .33 rifle. They had to kind of conserve ammunition. They couldn't just use it for anything.
How much ammunition did they have?
I don't really know how much ammunition they had, but the name of the game of this trip is conserve everything you can and reuse everything you can. So they didn't want to just use the guns willy-nilly.
You can't reuse bullets.
It's like
Yes,
Resident
exactly.
Evil.
You can technically
without the
reuse
zombies.
bullets, but they don't have the thing to do.
So I'm just trying to think of like what predators there would be in Antarctica other than the fucking weather.
The sea leopard is a predatory seal, and they're giant and they're huge, and they do have several run-ins with the sea leopards.
Bet you they were adorable though.
They're big, dude. Have you ever seen a picture of a sea leopard?
No, but
We're gonna post it on Facebook.
All right. I have been
Penguins
to
are
like
cute.
the
They're eating
Fisherman's Wharf though, where they have
Yeah.
all those big fat sea lion guys.
Yeah.
They're adorable.
Yeah,
Those
I
are
love them.
sea lions. Sea lions are adorable. Yeah.
Feed them a can
So are
of tuna.
penguins.
Penguins are rapists, though, aren't they?
Sure,
I thought they were
dolphins.
child
You're thinking of
thieves.
dolphins.
Yeah,
know-
dolphins are rapists. Penguins are like egg thieves.
Or no, they fuck their kids or something like that. You know what? It's okay. They did.
Well, they're in the deep south.
I'm
What do
separating
you
the art
expect?
from the artist. I still like their early albums, so it's fine.
That's great. So they waited and waited and waited for the winds to change so the ice pack could open up.
Like the Scorpion song.
But it never did. So
The opposite of the Scorpion song.
so they decided they were going to try to dig it out or chop it out or saw it out, and they tried all of it.
Just chop it up.
And in 48 hours of trying around the clock to open up a path for the ship, it was no use because every path that they would open, it would just freeze over again, like as fast as they could dig it.
It's cold as ice.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yes, it
that's one cool iceberg.
You're cold-blooded. Check it.
Only
see.
they had a space heater.
Yeah.
They get a bunch of
Idiots.
space heaters.
Yeah.
They put it around.
Well, they had like ways of warming themselves,
Or like a hair dryer. You know, like whenever something's just a little bit too frozen.
You know what they should have done was damage the environment for about like 200 years and make
there
the
you go.
point where our polar ice caps melt.
Yeah,
Or
make,
put it-
make the factories
yeah.
work around the clock for like
just-
for like a century.
That sounds like a myth, though. I don't think that's going to be realistic.
That's a myth.
Yeah, because there's still snowballs in New York City and in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
so
Man-made
it's not happening.
climate change is a myth, and I stand by that.
I seen to Snowball recently.
It snowed like 2 weeks ago. Therefore,
It's a myth.
So after 5 months of no change in the ice pack, no change in the winds at all, Shackleton had no choice but to ride out the harsh Antarctic winter right there on the boat. So what that means is it's going to be dark 24 hours of the day, and you're going to have some of the most brutal blizzards and storms anywhere on the Earth.
I like blizzards. I don't like storms.
Like
a
a
blizzard.
DQ.
The DQ blizzard.
Yeah.
Yeah, the DQ. We've talked.
We've
about
already
this.
talked about this.
Yeah.
They already know
This
how much we
episode's
like them.
sponsored by the DQ Blizzard.
So the expedition may have been lost, but their spirit wasn't. By this time, the men turned an area of the ship into kind of a common area where they would take their meals. They'd have costume parties. They'd play jokes on each other. They shaved each other's heads at one point. Everyone shaved their heads, including Shackleton. And then George Marston, he like put his head in his jacket so you could only see the top of his bald head, and he painted a face on it.
Oh my god.
so he was like doing a cornholio.
Yeah,
he needs TP for his butthole.
Yeah,
they
they
would
all do.
They would do stage shows where people would get up and tell stories and tell jokes.
Oh man, this is the best part.
Yeah, they would have mock trials.
Mock
For
trials.
like shit they would do in the past, like Worsley like stole something when he was a kid, and they had a mock trial. And like Worsley offered to buy the judge a drink afterwards or something like that if he found him innocent, and the judge went, haha, no.
These
They're
guys are
guilty.
fun.
He's like,
They are fun.
I like
He's like,
them.
okay, what did you guys do that you're embarrassed of? We're gonna put you on a mock trial.
I almost wish I was on this trip.
I stole a
I don't.
toffee one time. Then he's like, okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. What did you do? I ran after a vandalism. Oh, that's a good one. I raped somebody. They're like, whoa,
No,
whoa,
pass,
whoa,
pass.
whoa. And he's like, what? It's the 19th century. We're all cool with that. And he's like, no, nobody's cool with that. Ever.
No.
And then they all moved on and had a great time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say which one of the 28 men was, but I think you guys could find if you do that.
I'm sure he was considered an able seaman, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. They also had church services, of course, because there were some devout men that were like, these men are they're so crass, and why don't we do a church service every once in a while? So they did, and they got bored with that.
Were there some Irish on there?
Oh, yeah.
Shackleton is Irish, right? Correct?
Yes, he was. He was indeed.
Correct.
Cool.
Correct.
So was he the good Irish or the bad
Like
Irish?
some of our fans.
They're all good. They're all good.
We have fans in Ireland on both sides. I will say, I don't even know how strong those sides are anymore. I don't know how polarizing that is. Hit us up, by the way, anytime. If you want to also give us suggestions for shows, historyboyspodcast@gmail.com. Or if you just want to say, hey guys,
You're like,
cool.
your podcast sucks.
Yeah, well then
guys-
I'll ignore it. But if you're like, hey cool guys, I'll absolutely respond to you and I'll say, hey thanks man.
Yeah, if you don't have anything
Send
nice to
us
say,
your-
I will ignore it.
Send us hate mail because the very first hate mail we receive, I want to print it out and have it framed.
Oh, it will be framed. It will be framed. Now we're gonna only get hate mail though, Zach. Honestly,
I
I want to
agree.
frame our first positive email. I want to frame that one. Put that in my house.
Okay.
and it
fine.
It has yet to come. So,
We don't have any so far, so
We also have not said our email out loud on the show before.
we never
so-
have. It's only just been in the source notes.
I feel like you could figure it out.
Send us a carrier pigeon too.
yeah. Send us a telegram, which you still can do.
Really?
Yeah. You order them online.
Wait. This is a digression. This is a digression that I'm willing to indulge. So I can send you a telegram.
Yes, you
online.
can. Yes, you can.
But I have to email them first.
You have to email them first, and then they bring you a telegram.
Are they singing telegrams?
No, it's just a telegram.
Wait,
the
I want a
telegram
smoking
man
hot babe
comes
to sing you a
and
telegram.
hands you a telegram in person.
Are you saying you can't send somebody a singing telegram?
You can still send people singing telegrams, but you can still send people normal telegrams and have the telegram man come down and deliver you a message in person.
Holy shit! I'm gonna start doing this every time I'm on tour.
It's like $30, dude.
Worth it.
I'll do it.
That's,
I'll do it
that's
like
peanuts.
once. I'll do it
worth
like
it.
one time.
Once a month.
Yeah.
Do they take Groupon?
Right.
Groupon for for telegrams.
telegrams.
I have found 3 singing telegram services in Seattle that are all open right now.
That's great. This is like a legit telegram. But like singing telegrams.
You're saying,
telegram.
I just feel like you think that singing telegrams aren't legit telegrams, and that they're the most legit. It's immediately where we all went.
I actually forgot there were non-singing telegrams.
Okay.
I want a singing telegram. I want it to be delivered by a midget or a hot babe.
They also had a gramophone aboard that they would listen to records. But Worsley, I think it was Worsley, when he was like getting all the supplies together, he said that he needed needles, like a bunch of needles, like 100 needles. But he forgot to say that they were for gramophones, so they got like 100 sewing needles that they didn't really need.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say that they had one record that they could play, but they were all fucking smacked on heroin.
And it turned out to be Kenny Loggins playing with the boys.
Yeah,
off the Top
I
Gun.
was playing with the boys. They were all just fucking just in that sea of opiate dreams, and that's why they didn't get anything done.
Actually, one of the records was of Shackleton himself talking about his last journey he had with the ponies. There's a record of that.
Christ, so talk about masturbation right there.
Yeah, I know.
Well, he didn't listen to him.
What do you
but
want to
they
listen
did.
to?
You don't
I
know
want to
that.
hear the Charleston. What do you want to hear? I want to hear Shackleton's last voyage. Shut up, Shackleton.
So they even had Christmas dinner in the cleared section of the boat that they ended up calling the Ritz.
Oh.
Yeah.
What they
The
have?
Ritz.
Ritz. Crackers.
Oh, well, that's disappointing.
I mean, they had, at this point, they still had some good food.
Yeah,
We'll get into more of what they ate a little later.
I got some questions about that.
Yeah, probably a lot of seal.
What do you think seal tastes like?
A
don't
kiss
know.
from the rose on the gray.
I guess it's not
You. I was about to make that joke.
I guess it's not great, from what they say.
Seals are predominantly
Fat.
carnivorous.
Well, yes,
That's-
they eat fish, yeah, but I guess it's really not that good.
Hey, if you're starving, like,
Yeah.
you'll eat a rat.
Yeah.
I mean,
Lord knows I would. And have. And will again.
they're like, DoorDash is late. I guess I'll eat this rat.
Like, they come to the door with a rat halfway down my throat. I'm like, is that a rat?
They're like, here's your bag of rats. And you're like, oh yeah, I ordered rats.
Charles Green, the cook, also played his own jokes on the men. Like, on their birthdays, he would do the old frosting a balloon trick.
What is that?
So you frost a balloon, and it looks like a cake, and when you go to cutting it, it just pops.
Got him!
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like frosting a balloon sounds like a very sexual maneuver.
Everything does.
Well, I mean, but frosting the balloon. Hey guys, last night I was out with, the missus, and she let me frost her balloons. She frosted my balloons.
Pretty clear
I guess you're right. Yeah.
what that is.
It's when
Yeah, I mean, with 28 guys on board, like frosting a balloon
Man.
sounds like code for bukkake.
Oh, I'm
Jesus.
sure those guys were probably frosting balloons in their quarters in the evening. A lot of jacking on that boat.
Seaman with seaman.
Yeah.
Able seaman.
So Thomas Orde-Lees, he actually found a bicycle on the ship, and he decided to take a ride out on the ice with it. And he kind of went kind of far away, and everyone was like, oh shit, where'd he go? He's not coming back. So they organized like a search party to go find him, and he came riding up on his bike, and he's like, what's up, guys?
Ring,
He's like,
ring.
And Shackleton was like, dude, you don't go anywhere without someone else. No one goes anywhere without someone else. Come on.
He's like, I didn't go by myself.
I did find a tandem bike.
I put my Babe Ruth rookie card in the spokes, so I always got somebody riding
I
shotgun.
like that he found a bike.
Yeah,
on
he
the
found
ship.
a bike on the ship. Yeah, it's super crazy.
And the boat was built like bespoke for the voyage, yeah?
yeah, I don't know.
Somebody put a bike on there.
Yeah.
It's probably that roustabout.
Yeah. Stowaway bike.
So John Vincent, he was an experienced sailor, and he was like a real big, strong dude, and he kind of threw his weight around,
Fuck yeah.
and he was kind of a dick to people. Like, he would like try to get like the best piece of chicken or whatever, not chicken, but he'd try to get like the best piece and like get the best seat, and like at some point one of the men like complained to Shackleton, like, this guy's being kind of an asshole, and he's kind of shirking his responsibilities. And so we don't really know what Shackleton said to Vincent, but ever since, Vincent was totally on board. Like, he wasn't doing that anymore. So who knows?
He's like, listen, Vincent, we're out here on the ice. There's no one out here. There's no cops. Anything could happen. Anything to you could happen. So just listen to me. It could get serious. So why don't you fucking, straighten up, fly right, or else you're going to find yourself penguin food, motherfucker.
Verbatim. What he said.
And after every meal, they would like raise a glass and they would say, to our wives and sweethearts, and then they would all shout aloud, may they never meet.
These guys are having fun.
My point. Proving my point.
Yeah, right.
All those guys had priors.
So meanwhile, the temperature would drop to negative 30 degrees.
That's cold.
And the winds would blow up to 70 miles an hour.
Jeez.
So you could like straight up blow away. Like, if you went up to the deck to like take care of the dogs and shit, you might blow away.
Wait, that's where the dogs were?
Yeah, they were in like cages on the deck of the ship.
Oh, sweet baby boys.
But they were built for this. Like, these are sled dogs. These
they're
are
good
not
boys.
these are not like your dogs. You know?
My dogs could pull a very small sled. Like a,
And not well.
yeah.
They've been
And
going in all
probably not in the
directions.
direction you wanted.
Yeah.
They have their own way of doing things.
And although the 24-hour darkness was known to drive men totally crazy, it kind of brought the crew closer together. They kind of just they became friends, even though they were kind of from all different places and from all different walks of life.
Despite being all Ross.
Yeah, right.
I'd like to think that they were all like certifiably insane, but somehow their friendship, they're all like mad together. Just
Yeah.
it was a real loony bin.
Well, they're all like these rough adventurer types. They knew what they were signing up for. They were going to the Antarctic, for God's sakes. Shackleton also had ways of keeping potential troublemakers in place, and we'll kind of get to some of this again a little later. he would like separate them a little bit. He would keep them closer to him, because if anyone had any inkling of maybe this guy isn't cut out for this, maybe this guy won't make it, Shackleton would make sure that those men were closest to him, so he could inspire them a little bit more.
And whisper into their ear, "This motherfucker, I see that you're dropping the ball. If you fuck with this, if you ruin this, this is my third time doing this, and I will fucking leave you out here. I will leave you out here in the cold. You will go on a bike ride and never come back."
No, Shackleton was actually terrified of losing anybody on the trip. He did want everyone to survive, and he took great pride and great pains to make sure of that. Just saying.
That's your opinion.
And finally, after months in the cold and darkness, the sun came back gradually, day by day. And when it finally did come back, the temperature would sometimes get as high as 35 degrees.
Oh.
And would allow the men to kind of strip down and wash themselves in the snow. That's what they did.
They must have been so stinky before.
No one ever took their underwear off.
Ooh.
Woof.
Yeah. And rubbing snow on yourself to get clean?
Better than nothing.
Is
I
it
guess.
still a skid mark if it's the whole underwear?
I'm guessing it would be. In this case, it would be the whole
Did they have
underwear.
toilet paper? What did they do?
This is interesting. So, going to the bathroom was a big problem. Taking a piss, not so much, but taking a shit. So you had to like go behind like a big ice drift, snow drift thing. They would use the ice to wipe their ass, which I could not imagine ever doing.
I would imagine that would be cold.
That would be excruciating.
On your butthole?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Talk about a blue eye.
yeah.
I don't know why I looked at you.
Just shattered dicks and shattered assholes and shattered dreams.
So the ice pack did start to break up again, which at first seemed like a good sign. And they even found like a crack in the middle of the ice floe right in front of the ship. And again, they tried to like dig it out, try to saw it out, but it just kept freezing and it was still no use. They tried everything to get that ship out, and it was just totally stuck.
Did they try hypnotism?
Inside, the men could, like when they went to sleep at night, the men could hear the ship groaning, like, under the pressure of the ice pack, because it's literally all of the ice of the continent. It moves in its own way under the current and under the wind, so it pressed up against that ship and it threatened to crush it. And so they had to keep sort of digging it out just so the ship didn't get crushed. It was a constant thing that they kept having to do.
But then they dug it out and it was fine.
No.
No.
Again, this is why they all needed to have hair dryers. Just melt some of the...
Space heaters,
Yes.
hair dryers. Come prepared, guys.
Idiots.
The Endurance at some point, it started to lift up, and everyone's like, shit, shit, shit. And they got the dogs and all the guys off the ship.
To see the boat rising.
Yeah, and it got...
Come on, guys.
and it got
it's crazy.
up, and it, like, tilted over, and they're like, oh, no. This boat's, like, totally getting crushed.
That's one list I wouldn't want to be a part of.
Harry Chippy McNeish, the master carpenter, he couldn't keep up with the repairs of the ship. Like, everything was just breaking all around. They started to realize that they were taking on water pretty quickly.
Ugh.
And the real nasty part about it is it was deep inside the hull. And so you had to climb down in there on your hands and knees in the freezing cold Antarctic water. And you had to take hand pumps down there, and you had to pump it out.
Get down there, Chippy.
And so the guys would take turns going down there and like trying to pump it out. But at some point, it just was completely useless. There's no way they could get all that water out.
There's one guy before the guy that was like, hey, this isn't working anymore. Where he's like, hey, this isn't working. And they're like, no, you're just not doing it good enough.
Well, and it was round the clock shifts. So you'd be up in the middle of the night doing this and then stumble back to your bunk, wet, cold, tired, and knowing that you have to wake up pretty soon and do it all over again.
This is not worth Christmas at the Ritz.
yeah.
They're now on October 27th, 1915, so they'd been out there almost an entire year.
And it's almost Halloween.
Yeah. So finally, Shackleton gave the order on the 27th to abandon the ship.
So much for endurance.
It endured.
At this point, where are they exactly? They're not even on the continent, aren't they? They're just trapped in the ice.
They're on the ice pack, yeah.
Far from actual land.
Far from actual land, yep.
Wait, there's actual land under that? I thought
there's not.
The continent was ice.
Well, there
Talking
is
about
land.
Antarctica?
Yeah. Antarctica is land, but everything around it is this impassable ice flow.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why you couldn't just walk from there.
And the
'cause it was just too
magnetism.
far.
Because you're so close. Because the magnetism will get you when you're that close to the poles.
Is that true?
I think so.
It's not true, Tyler.
Listen, everyone's got a magnet in their face. Everyone does. There's a magnet, like a ferrous metal, that is in the calcified bones in your face, and
What
it's
the
how
fuck are you talking about?
I heard it on a documentary. I think it was like on Sci-Fi Channel or something.
Was this on the History Channel?
Possibly.
Was this
Then it's not true.
Was this somebody that Joe Rogan had on his podcast?
Well, you got to take a lot of Alpha Brain to get it, but it's a real
If
thing.
you take a ton of Alpha Brain, you get that magnet in your face.
Finally.
I'm telling you, like, it's how people know what magnetic north is. It's a real thing. Just Google magnet face.
I just think of ICP's Miracles music video with you repeating magnet face over and over again.
I'm not gonna talk
How
to
does
a
it even
fucking
work?
scientist.
It works because of the magnetism of the poles. They're real close. Anyway.
You still know what magnetic north is. They've had compasses for hundreds of years by this
But
point.
you also have it naturally.
So as they were getting the stores and all the equipment and all the dogs off the Endurance, they slowly started to realize this was literally the worst thing that could happen. Like, we don't have a ship anymore. We can't leave now. We are stuck here now.
Our boat done sank.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't sunk yet, but yeah. Everyone also thought must have been a moment of utter disappointment for Shackleton. Like, this was his whole thing. This is his dream, really. Because he was a man that, like, wanted to be remembered by history. If he wanted anything, that's what it was. Now the whole expedition was a failure. There's no way that they were going to cross the continent now. But he totally kept his chin up. He didn't view the ice as his real enemy. He viewed the failing morale as his actual enemy. So he totally kept it from his men because he had to be the strong one. He had to be the good face.
Right.
He's like the whole the whole like boat thing. That's part of this. It's part of the.
That's kind of the way he made it seem. Yeah.
He's like, I planned that.
I planned that. This is an escape room.
Well, he kind of kept people busy, so they couldn't really focus on things like that.
Well, he should have convinced them that, this is their new home so that they don't have to be homesick. It's like,
That's a good point.
we're already home, guys.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, this is our home. We live here now. We'll build houses out of ice, and and that boat.
And make love to the ice.
Yeah,
And have ice children.
yeah.
So they lost a lot of food stores in the flooded hull, and some equipment, but otherwise their spirits were kind of high. Because he wasn't anticipating this kind of disaster, though, Shackleton only brought 5 tents, because remember, there's only supposed to be 6 of them. They're supposed to be moving across land, so he only had 5 tents with them. Their bedding wasn't a whole lot better. They had 18 reindeer fur sleeping bags, which were superior to the wool ones that they had. So men kind of had to draw straws to figure out which ones that they were going to get.
There was sex happening on that trip. No one could convince me otherwise. You're cold. You think you're gonna die. There's dudes sharing fucking sleeping bags. No two ways about it. You're getting naked. You're trying to avoid the cold. There's a boner in a butt. And I know that as a dude with a lady, the boner, the spoon boner isn't always the best thing. But I feel like if I was in a situation where I was getting the spoon boner just as a courtesy, I'd probably just let it slide.
Quite
Early
literally.
morning spoon boners.
Think about how cold it is, Tyler. There's no way.
Only one way to warm up.
Sorry, Jerry, I'm with Tyler here.
This is my Alamo.
This is my
Little Bighorn.
this is my little bighorn.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's what I would say to the dude when I'm spooning him in the butt with my rock hard erection.
So for tent assignments, the crew members who had previously shown signs of, I don't know, they were with Shackleton. And the other guys, like, he would put Frank Wilde in charge of a tent, he put Worsley in charge of another tent. You know, like, he kind of put his trusted guys.
His big boys.
Yeah, with the rest
His
of them.
consigliaries.
There you go. Yeah. Because of the winter months that they had stayed there, the ice pack had carried the Endurance and the whole pack 600 miles to the north. So they're not even in the same place.
Going the wrong way.
Yeah, well, now they're going in the right way. Because they want to get the hell out of there now. Because their boat, they can't get it out.
Sure.
So right now, they actually kind of moved in a good direction. And Shackleton kind of planned for this. He's like, well, the ice pack might take us closer, and I might still be able to get the boat out. And we might be further than we could be if we were on foot.
That so sounds like some shit that a guy made up on the spot. He's like, but see, the ice moves, and we move with the ice. The ice will take us where it needs to take us.
It sounds like that, but it's not.
I know.
The ice pack will move faster, and we'll get to that.
Like, we just need to listen to the ice, man.
If you got any secrets, tell it to the ice. She listens.
Yeah. Now, these were uncharted waters. No one had ever been there. And their new plan was to reach either Paulet Island or Snow Island, and it was at the tip of the Antarctic Peninsula. You know that big peninsula that sticks out of the Antarctic?
Yeah.
Towards
It was
South
right
America.
there. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
going
it was
on.
right there.
A picture that's going on the Instagram.
Yeah. We'll show you. And they were going to find some of these buried food stores that they knew were there from 1905 that had been buried there for a long time. They were like, okay, well, we might be able to make it to those food stores that are there.
I meant to ask you when I was reading the research. Were those left by people that died?
Actually, I don't know who they were left by.
Because no one's just going down there burying food.
No, they are. Because,
Really?
Yeah, because you never know when you're going to need it. And,
People are nice.
well, you have to do that kind of a thing. And and the cold preserves everything that you have.
Yeah.
So there's like a bucket of Popeyes waiting for them.
Yeah.
Not quite like that.
Some Jack in the Box.
It was probably pemmican. And what pemmican is it's the ultimate survival food. And what it is it's pressed fat. And what you do is you can make a lot of things out of it. But what people normally do with it is they mix it with things. Native Americans actually they use a lot of pemmican. And it's made out of a lot of different meats, but you'd mix it with like berries and maybe a little bit of flour and fry it up, and you'd call that a bannock.
Huh.
But pemmican is like the ultimate survival food.
So
Like Spam.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
Sort
Spam.
of, but worse than Spam.
Yeah, Spam's delicious.
Spam.
It is.
Yeah, no, it's really
You know,
good.
Spam was Terry Jones. The Spam song. You guys know.
What?
Spam a lot?
Spam.
Spam a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
May he rest in peace. He just passed
Name
away
was-
recently.
Yes.
Yeah, Spam Lemma Ding Dong or whatever.
Terry Jones.
I don't know what song you're talking about.
But then they were gonna go from either one of those islands overland to Wilhelmina Bay, where there were whaling camps there. Like whalers came by in the summertime, and maybe they could like flag down somebody there. But for the time being, they would sleep crammed into these tents. 5 tents, guys. 28 men. 5 tents. 28 men.
So that's what five? That's 5 per tent, and then an extra 3 that they sleep outside.
Well, they sleep inside.
About 6 per tent.
Yes.
A couple of them 5.
Yeah. That would be terrible.
Well,
How big are these tents?
They're not like the pole in the middle tents. Like these are like these like wire tents that they engineered for trips like this. They could be set up and struck in a moment's notice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like a person-sized tent.
Well, it's a little bit bigger than that, but again, it was meant for 6 people.
oh,
They had 5. You know what I mean? So
What about
Well-
the puppies? I'd have the puppies in my tent.
yeah, I know.
you
Get
can't
those
bring the
dogs
puppies inside, dude.
Why not? They're so warm.
So what they
Exactly,
did,
that's what I was thinking.
Well, they actually
Snuggly
built.
boys.
They actually built like these like little ice shelters for the dogs.
Oh,
So they had something.
I'll sleep in the ice shelter with the dogs and be those snuggly boys
Right.
and girls.
And their new camp was called Ocean Camp because they were on literally an ice floe.
And they also
like a big chunk of ice.
They weren't really creative guys. So
they would periodically go back to the Endurance and salvage what they could, extra food stores, a couple of medical tools, a couple of books, actually. All of the film that Frank Hurley had shot with his camera, they rescued all of that, too.
Oh, nice.
And, yeah, which amazingly made it through this trip. Amazingly.
Well, because film was made out of bacon back then.
What?
The whole time the guys were like, "Come on, let me eat the pictures," and he's like, "No, we need to preserve history here.
We're doing made of bacon. It's just like Looney Tunes when you look at somebody and their head turns into like
a chicken leg,
a ham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while they were setting up Ocean Camp with all their tents and everything and slowly getting things from the Endurance, like McNeish was like pulling out nails one by one so he could use them for other things, taking wood, whatever they could find. They were making it more habitable, like day by day, because there wasn't a whole lot to do other than that. They would read the books over and over again. They would read scraps of newspaper over and over again. Finally, somebody found a deck of cards.
Oh, hell yeah.
Nice. And they started like playing poker, and one guy like taught everyone how to play bridge, and it became like this fascination, and everyone was playing bridge all the time.
Didn't they play bridge so much that the cards disintegrated?
Yeah. So that would happen much later, but they got real dirty, and the reason why they got dirty was from handling them, but also from they would burn blubber as a fuel, and the soot or the smoke would get all over the cards, and would get all over everything. It got all over them, and there was actually a couple of people that said, with like this layer of like grime on their face, that they're like, I'm not washing it off. It's going to protect against frostbite. Who knows if it did or it didn't, but
I doubt it.
Well, I mean, the
couldn't
Native
make it
Americans,
worse.
Native Americans were covering themselves in grease.
I remember, yeah.
So maybe it did. I don't know.
Just a bunch of blubber boys.
Yeah, and it was all black and stuff. So like when you see like these pictures of like the survivors, they always have really black faces.
It's not a Justin Trudeau kind of thing.
No, it's because of the burning of the whale blubber like clung to them and clung to everything.
Jeez.
They actually observed the Aurora Polaris, which are the southern lights. Like the Aurora Borealis, which would be in the what, Tyler?
Northern lights. Or the North
Where
Pole,
would those be?
North Pole.
What's another name for the North Pole, Tyler?
The Arctic.
There you go.
There you go.
Good job,
They did
Tyler.
it.
I did
That's
it.
a gold star.
They were-
steamed hams.
Yeah, I was going for that too.
Simpsons
It's this
reference.
time of the year.
Our first one.
This part of the country.
I mean, Jerry walked me right into it. I was just slow.
I know. Ultimately, they would spend 2 months on this ice floe.
And what are the total months that they're there at this point?
Over a year, right?
Well, they set out from South Georgia on December 5th, and it's now into November.
So
the summer's coming back.
And this was what, 19...
Well, now it's 1915.
Okay. So they're not running from World War One.
Well, actually, before they left, Shackleton asked Churchill, he's like, man, I feel really bad about this. I kind of want to be in the mix with you guys. And Churchill sent him a letter and he said, no, dude, this is as important as the war effort. You have to do this.
Churchill was right.
Clearly? Also,
He really hated Shackleton.
Did all British white dudes know each other at that point? Because...
Famous ones did.
Shackleton was Irish, just putting that out there.
Oh, okay. Well,
But they fought on the same side of that war, so.
And he was famous.
So if the question is asked, do all white people know each other? Yes, we do.
Yeah.
If you're famous.
If you're famous.
I know
yeah.
Brad Pitt.
You're not famous, Chris.
I have a podcast.
Self-made man.
So as they watched the Endurance slowly get swallowed by the ice, the decision was made to pull the 3 lifeboats off the ship and pull them across the ice pack as far north as they could make it. So Shackleton called all hands together and he told them, you have to toss everything that's not totally essential. First thing he did is he pulled out a gold cigarette case that he had in his pocket. Took everything out of it and he tossed it in the snow.
Took out the cigarettes and threw it in the snow.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yep.
This year I quit.
Yeah.
Well, they
And-
did all have rations of tobacco too that they would sparingly use.
So like this, of course, this was the time I decided to quit snorting glue or huffing glue. I think is the term.
Snorting glue
Airplane.
sounds
Yeah.
more difficult.
Throw your airplane glue in the
Snorting.
fire.
That's brutal.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Well, I mean, it depends on what kind of glue, you know?
Now, certain exceptions were made. Like, any man with a diary was permitted to take it, and luckily, that's how we get this story, so luckily those diaries did survive.
Same reason they kept the
Yeah.
film.
Actually,
The photograph.
Shackleton didn't want to keep the film, but the rest of the men really did. And thank God that still
Yeah,
exists.
fuck Shackleton.
This is a
Piece of
startup.
shit.
Literally, like, I feel like, I don't know, it's like this weird thing where it's like, you can keep your Instagram, you can keep your Facebook, you gotta throw out all the other stuff, because we need people to know how cool we are. Like, later on.
Yeah.
It's just way slower Instagram.
Actually, Leonard Hussey, who was the meteorologist, he was permitted to keep his banjo, although it weighed 12 pounds. Yeah, because again, morale is very important.
And I guess because
Yeah.
they are in the deep south, they need the banjo.
Yeah, that is true. That deep south, you do need a banjo.
Christopher,
I have a
he-
banjo.
He tools around with the old
Must be a
banjo.
close back because
Weighs 12 pounds. Yeah,
it's heavy.
Yep.
Well, and in addition to that, did the meteorologist also get to keep his green screen so he could tell him what the weather's going to be?
Now, the lifeboats were given names for the trip's financiers. The James Kidd, the Dudley Docker, and the Stancomb Wells.
Those are terrible
So the
names.
James Cameron, the Dudley Do-Lite, and the fucking Stankonia?
Yeah, I know, right? Also, Patreon backers.
Yes, those are Patreon backers, for sure. Now, they were too heavy to be pulled by the dogs, so the men themselves had to pull them. And anything that couldn't pull its own weight couldn't stay. So the puppies had to be shot.
Fuck Shackleton.
Fuck these guys, fuck all these
sorry.
guys.
McNeish's beloved cat, Mrs. Chippy,
No!
also had to be shot.
I remember you shot us picture. I was waiting to hear about this cat.
So his grave.
They shot the cat?
Yeah.
Couldn't they just toss it into the water? That'd be fine.
No, shooting is
Damn.
much easier, man.
No.
But on his
You know
grave,
how much I love cats. I'm
yeah,
kidding.
on Harry on McNeish's grave, he has a statue of Mrs. Chippy
Aw.
on his gravesite to this day. People leave flowers by.
You
it,
know
so
I
it's
love
sweet.
cats.
Wow.
I was joking.
Yeah.
If you want to see pictures of my cats, at Chris Whedon on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's pretty much just pictures of John
Yeah.
Sparkles.
will
I love
absolutely
John
show you pictures
Sparkles.
of my cat.
John
And I also
My
love Miss
spaghetti.
Chippy and
And
spaghetti.
my spaghetti.
Yeah.
My spaghetti cat.
I just got the big dumb dog.
Oh, it's like
Follow
a
him
Mac.
at a dog named Mac on
Mac's
Instagram.
Is that real?
That's real.
Oh, I'm gonna follow him.
I follow your dog on Instagram.
Hells yeah.
I follow you. I don't think I follow your dog.
My dog's Instagrams are set to private. They live a very private lifestyle. Thank you, no thank you.
So at 5 p.m. on November 21st, 1915, the men watched with melancholy as they saw the Endurance break apart and sink into the enclosing ice. And within 10 minutes, it was gone as if it had never been there. Like the ice pack closed up, and it was gone.
It wouldn't have been so sad if the same orchestra guys from the Titanic weren't on it. And they were like, we're going to stay. And they're like, you could just walk off the boat onto the ice. They're like, we're
no.
going to stay.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure playing with you guys.
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
they say in that movie? I don't
Something
know.
like that. We're Englishmen, so
Yeah. Or orchestra rules.
It's kind of one of the best things in that movie.
it kind of is.
Yeah.
It's kind of the highlight of that movie.
Everything that explodes in movies should have an orchestra who are like, nope, we're going to keep going.
Remember the Death Star blows up and there's that orchestra playing?
They're all dressed as stormtroopers.
Now, the trudge through the ice packs was arduous to say the least. Because the temperature rose to 25 degrees, the flows became really slushy and really nasty. So
It's kind of worse.
yeah, you'd step into holes all the time, and like
And just descend into the darkness.
no, like it would just be like walking through a bog. Like you'd stick your foot through it, and all of a sudden you'd just be soaked with ice cold water.
You know I'm no
And
fan
you're-
of bogs.
And you're dragging a boat through it, so it's also like getting stuck in slush. It was awful.
They raised so much money for ALS, though. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
There you go.
I said something fucked up, therefore I'm implicitly sorry.
But also,
Just assume. If you're offended by what I
that
say,
joke was on point.
it was pretty good.
But yeah, like the snow would form, like it would look like it was sturdy, but it would form like these like thin ice sheets over the top, and you'd step directly into like pools of
Like the
cold
skin on
water.
top of pudding.
Yes,
Ooh.
exactly. Yeah, it would look
Pudding
like you could
skin.
walk across it, but you couldn't.
Now I want pudding.
Why can't they just make like just the skins?
Like on Seinfeld? They did that on Seinfeld.
Their boots started to weigh more too, so even just walking was harder.
Oh, 'cause they got
being
soaked
all
up.
Yeah, being all waterlogged. McNeish actually decided at some point he wasn't going to go any further and he wasn't going to obey any more orders. He's like, look, dude, when I signed up on my contract that I was going to be a member of the ship's crew. And the ship is gone, and I don't have to obey orders anymore. And so...
He has a great point.
Well, he doesn't,
I
actually.
love this.
Because Worsley, he brought it up to Shackleton, and Shackleton, he goes, first of all, if you refuse, you're going to stay and you're going to die. Second of all, he gathered all hands together, whipped out the contract, and then read it aloud to everyone, where it said you all still have to obey orders, even ashore, and this may as well be ashore.
Technically, it's not
So-
even ashore.
Yeah.
So
Right.
when I was reading like the research, I thought that he had like brought him aside and was like, no. See, in your contract, like line.
No, he busted him out.
Okay,
in
so
front
I
of
like that
everyone.
he busted it out, and I'd imagine it rolled out on a long parchment.
Yeah, it's like a scroll.
It's on a scroll.
Like a seal on
and he
it.
got everyone in there. But when I was reading it, to me it seemed a very like one-on-one, like, hey, okay, so like let me put on my spectacles. I know that you think that like you don't have to, but like right here it says you do, and he's like, oh, good call. Like,
Yeah.
but it makes way more sense that he's like calling everyone out.
Yeah.
In this instance.
Well, yeah, he wants them all because he doesn't want another guy being like, "Wait a minute,
Yeah.
I was on the ship's crew." It's
Also,
like,
where
yeah,
the
I
fuck
know.
are they gonna go?
That's
like,
yeah. It's just because he was so tired, it was so cold, and at some point your body is telling you, you gotta stop, dude. It's a natural human
so
thing to
Shackleton
do.
was talking about it dying.
You know what they need
Yeah.
here is an Aguirre style character.
No, they don't. Shackleton is the opposite of Aguirre.
He's the anti-Aguirre.
He's the anti-Aguirre.
You know what they need in this situation? A space heater,
Yes. Or
Maybe
hair
a-
dryers.
propane lamp.
A helicopter.
Ooh.
I crossed.
Yeah.
sorry, Kobe.
We're gonna
Rest in
cut. We're
peace.
gonna cut that out.
No, we're not.
Okay.
I didn't even think of Kobe when I said it. But then
A jet plane, or
Are you
maybe
just gonna keep naming things that fly?
a bigger boat.
A giant bird.
yeah, giant eagles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like in Lord of the Ring.
A giant flying Kobe Bryant.
So after 5 miserable, unbearable, exhausting days, they'd only covered a meager 9 miles.
Oh,
9 miles.
One more mile than Eminem.
They had to keep setting up like makeshift camps just to rest, but then they would strike them. They weren't really official camps. After a while, Shackleton and a couple others, they scouted the area because their way that they were going to go was now impassable. Like there was no solid ice flows. So they found a way that they could go, but there's a few guys that were like, well, why don't we just launch these boats and take our chances? And Shackleton was like, that's going to be our last resort. Because if we launch these boats and we go like mad to the west and northwest and try to hit land, we could also get swallowed up in the ice, and it could be a death sentence. They would pull the boats at night until they couldn't go any longer. And this time, it was approaching the end of December, and Shackleton announced, like, look, we found another way. It's gonna suck a lot more this time. And
Talk about morale.
yeah, and he goes, but look, Christmas is gonna happen while we are pulling these boats.
And my gift to you is all this ice.
Well, he goes, we're gonna celebrate it now, and we're gonna pull the boats through Christmas. And it was like their first big meal. in those 5 days. Like, they were just eating rations of, like, pemmican and shit. So it was, like their first, like, legit meal. And they were like, we're gonna have to leave some of these stores at Ocean Camp. A lot had to be left at Ocean Camp. And keep in mind that they're on an ice pack, so it does kind of follow them very slowly. So they could run back again and again, but with these boats, it was hard to do so, so they had to find a good place where they could stop. And he's trying to find a place where they could stop. So, finally, on December 31st, they could go no further. The ice simply wasn't sturdy enough for them to continue on. So they finally stopped on the first decent ice floe that they could find, and Frank Worsley called their new camp Mark Time Camp. It was kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, as if that they were going to be there for a short time. Like, you would mark time, because there's nothing else to do.
I thought it was based off his best friend, Mark Time.
No. They would rather take their chances on the drift that would take them further than just walking. Clearly, walking wasn't getting them anywhere.
This is becoming a nightmare scenario.
Yes.
Where you're like, you're walking, but the land that you're moving on is also walking.
Right.
And then also, you can see your other camp, and if you run back, you can get... This is...
It's a couple of miles away, but you can still get there.
Yeah, you can get there.
When you're not pulling a big-ass boat that weighs like 2 tons, you can get back in a span of a few hours.
Is that how much those boats weighed?
Yeah.
I feel like these
What the
guys
fuck?
should be running...
Because they put their stores and everything in them, so, you know.
Yeah.
They also had the dog sleds to pull some other stuff. They still had to leave a lot of food stores and stuff behind.
I pictured inflatable rafts and one rum ham.
No, these are big-ass wooden lifeboats.
Oh.
Yeah, you're not going to be running. You're going to be walking.
Slowly.
See what I did there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Christopher Walken.
Yeah, I did Christopher Walken.
I know.
Yeah, I did a thing.
Unfortunately, they'd be at the whim of the inhospitable gale force winds and the pressure from the ice pack to break the flow that they were on at any moment. So, like, when I say gale force winds, there's certain levels, and there's a bunch of them, but gale force winds can be anywhere, I think it's between 40 and like 75 mile an hour winds.
Ugh.
And that's like a legit gale force. There's like softer gale forces, but after gale you get to hurricane winds. So that shows you how strong these winds are.
They're one step below hurricane.
Yes, exactly. The ice pack makes these terrifying sounds the whole time.
Yeah.
Where you hear the ice crushing like all around
We're talking about
you.
some creaking
Sure,
and
yeah.
cracking.
Yeah, as you're like trying to sleep at night on top of a piece of ice.
It's like Jerry Seinfeld in
That's
Kramer's apartment.
Yeah, that's like 6 foot thick. You think like, oh, that might be okay, but then you think about like the power of the ocean and all that stuff, and like the power of like a continent's worth of ice surrounding you, and the pressure that would bring, and you start to get a little freaked out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're like, Mr. Parbles?
yeah, yeah, right.
Go back to that Seinfeld
Yeah,
episode.
yeah. So Mark Time Camp was much worse. Whenever possible, they would keep going back to Ocean Camp, as I said, and they kept like getting like food stores that they had left behind, and they'd bring them back.
Yeah, they're all like, remember how cool Ocean Camp was? You want to go hang out there? Yeah. Let's head back there.
Well, and on the dog sleds, because not all the dog teams were shot, just like the puppies. I'm sorry to bring it back up again.
I spilled beer on myself when you
Sorry.
said
I'm sorry.
Oh,
It
not all
wouldn't
the
take 'em
dogs
that
were
long.
shot, just the puppies. No!
And because they only took 2 boats with them, they went back and they got the Stankham Wells back.
Literally the funniest name
It is.
I have
it is.
ever heard.
Yeah,
You
and
would
it's the
think that the funniest boat would be the one that they took in the first place.
Yeah, well, the
They're-
James Caird was their most seaworthy. They're like
James Cameron.
their best one.
Yeah,
That makes sense. He likes the ocean.
Yeah, that guy loves the ocean. Stankham Wells hates.
I'm
He hates the ocean.
gonna name my new cat that.
Stankham Wills.
I'm gonna name my son that.
It. I hope so. But But it made all the men feel much better having 3 boats, so they don't all have to pile into 2 with all their shit, you know?
And nobody wanted to be in Stankham Wills.
Jeez.
That's the only boat I'd want to be in.
I knew you guys were going to joke
If
about
I'm
that.
gonna die, I'm dying in the funniest boat. Put that on your tombstone.
They kept hunting seals and penguins whenever they could, but the unfortunate thing was they were forced to leave behind some seal meat. So what happened is like Orde-Lees and a couple others, like they'd go out and like they'd find some, and there was actually this one instance where Orde-Lees was trying to like go out and find seals to hunt, and this massive sea leopard came out of the ocean. These things are predatory and they're carnivorous, and they will attack you. And it came directly for him, and he like ran back. And he's like waving his arms, and he's yelling at Frank Wilde, like, get the gun! Get the gun! And like, the sea leopard went back into the ocean, and he's like, okay, maybe it's gone. I'm still moving. He's still running, you know? And like, all of a sudden, like in a video game, the sea leopard like bursts up through the ice, like right at him, because it followed his shadow from
awesome.
underneath the water.
Well, that's what they do. Like,
Yeah. And so, like, it came at him again. I think it was, like, 30 feet away. Frank Wilde, like, popped it, and they got this, like, 12-foot-long, 1,000-pound sea leopard.
Sandwich. Oh.
And they made meatball subs out of it.
But they got a bunch of food from that. But what happened was after this, Orde-Lees would go and he would get more seals. But the thing was you had to take the dog teams out to where you got them so you could bring them back and you could butcher them immediately, right? Well, there was some point where Shackleton said, nah, dude, leave them. And I think that if there's one mistake Shackleton absolutely made, it was this one. And a lot of men thought this too, especially Orde-Lees, but they would end up being really desperate for food and blubber as well. Fuel as well. So it really turned out to be kind of a disastrous thing to leave those behind.
Shackleton, I used to think you were cool.
Well, and also,
Shackleton's a hero.
Which gun did they shoot it with?
I don't really know.
I'm going to assume the rifle.
I don't really know.
I would think so. It was point blank, I would imagine it was the 12 gauge, but...
Right. I mean, I don't think the pistol would do jack shit to...
No. I don't think
A
they
sea
used
puppy.
the pistol very much at all.
they were
pistol's
saving it for
suicide.
themselves
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
things
exactly.
got dire.
Yeah. And even then,
Get me
you'll
my
need 6 bullets.
suicide gun.
But like... Well, I mean, they had others, you
We
know.
have a hunting rifle, we have a hunting shotgun, and a suicide gun.
29 bullets.
Yeah.
It's one of those revolvers.
It's
one
a
of the,
big...
it's one of
Everyone's
the,
name is on each
Yeah.
bullet.
it's one of the crazy ones for the circus, but we got it for this thing.
I know it says Frank on it, but it's my Frank.
So as the weeks and months wore on, the food storages began to run dangerously low, including the blubber, as I said. Ocean camp was now out of the question. It was 7 miles away, and the ice flows were not stable enough to go across. And, like, they tried. They tried a couple of times, and it was not working. There's no way. So that was lost.
It was hilarious.
Well, no, it wasn't.
Whoa!
But as they could still see it, and it was pretty much underwater, too. Like, it was sinking, clearly.
Ooh.
So
Are they all like...
that was out.
Hey, remember how cool ocean camp was?
Yeah.
I miss those days.
Yeah.
They're like, oi, look at me. I'm surfing. They're like, you ain't surfing. And he's like, I ain't surfing. And then he jumps back. And
Okay.
then he's like, do you get any pictures? And they're like, no.
What the fuck?
I don't know what you're referencing.
I put it in my diary. I'm just thinking like he's jumping onto an ice floe and then it's sinking down and he's doing like a surfing thing.
Actually,
okay.
funny story, Tyler.
Thank you.
A
They
couple of
literally
guys,
did that.
A couple of guys kind of tried to do something like that. They were horsing around, and they were like, "All right, we can do this, but don't."
I'd be great on the
They
screw.
were like, "Don't let Shackleton catch us." And of course, Shackleton caught him. He didn't say anything, but he looked like a disappointed father. He like glared at them, and they felt so ashamed because they had so much respect for the guy that they never did anything like that.
Shackleton sees everything.
Yeah,
He's the dean.
yeah.
Oh, it's a crusty old dean.
They're all just trying to goof around and like do panty raids and stuff.
This bra palm must better work, nerdlinger.
Soon, they couldn't with the lowering of the rations day by day. You get less and less to eat day by day. They didn't have enough food to feed the dog teams.
Oh,
God damn it! I know where this is heading.
2 of the dog teams were shot.
God damn it!
Now, this is really... I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. This is so sad, and it really pains me. I love animals, and this really pains me. But, like, Frank Wild took total responsibility for it. He took the dogs, like, one by one behind these, like, ice drifts and capped them. He said that there was a couple that were tough because they were all wagging their tails, and, like, they kept, like, jumping up on him and,
God
like, licking
damn
him.
it.
I'm gonna
And,
be
like,
honest. That man had some brass balls, because I know that hurt him.
I could not do that, and it did hurt him.
I
and
know
hurt
it did.
Everyone that had to
But
take
the cat lived, right?
No.
Fuck!
But one of them, it was discovered later, was still alive.
Oh, fuck
And the dude
off.
that found it, like, pulled out his knife and, like, cut its throat because it was...
God damn it.
I know, dude. I know. This is rough stuff, man. But
They did what they had to do.
They
I
did
get it.
You
I know-
said that everyone survived, Jerry.
Well, look, they still had 2 dog teams. Again,
how many
they had
dogs are in a
69.
team?
I don't really know how many's in a team, and I think it might vary, but they still had 2 more dog teams. It was always the younger ones that weren't totally trained, that were the first to go. It was terrible. It was rough on everyone, for sure. Because all of the men had formed attachments with these dogs. They had names. Shakespeare was a name of one. Like, they all had names, and that tells you how close they were with these dogs. It was very painful for them.
I'd like to
do
think
that.
Shakespeare was the only smart named one.
He was the biggest. He was this big old dog. There's pictures of him.
Oh, I thought the most literary guy on the crew was like, I'm going to name my dog Shakespeare. And then another guy's like, I'm going to name my dog Barry. Reminds me of this guy who hit me when I was a kid.
I named this dog Butt Licker, because I saw it licking its butt.
Yeah, Frank Wild said it was the worst job he's ever had to do. Ever.
Yeah, I had to, like, go to Antarctica and back, but...
That was the worst part.
See, I respect that. He did what he had to do, and it sucked.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I love animals.
Well, I guess he's a better shot than the Norwegian and the Thing.
Yeah.
It's true.
So cracks were seen in the floe, making it necessary for Shackleton to order a watch every night. Now, a watch, because everyone was tired, a watch consisted sometimes of an hour. So you'd stay up for an hour, you'd go back to your tent, and the next guy would go. But what this did is it made it impossible to sleep. Because dudes coming inside a small tent crammed full of dudes, getting snow and ice all over everybody, and another guy's going, it's just I can't imagine trying to
You
sleep
need a longer
in those,
watch.
in
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
situations. Well, and eventually they did fluctuate times and stuff. We'll kind of get to that later as the ice kind of breaks more. But yeah.
And most watches have 24 hours, so
They have 12.
Honestly, 12.
24. Oh, okay, 12.
So now boredom was the main killer. Everyone had heard each other's stories. Multiple times. They'd play the same games over and over again. Their cards were disintegrating.
They all had to read the same shampoo bottle when they pooped.
Hey, remember that time? Yeah, remember that time?
Yeah. What they troubled themselves with was wind direction, because they knew that they needed to go northwest, because that's where Paulette Island is. So they were so focused on the way the wind moved in their tent, and they looked at every stitch and everything in their tent, that it's this condition that sailors can form sometimes that they call wind madness, where they think about the wind so much that it's all-consuming. And so the 2 things the men talked about were food and the wind.
So how about
What else
that
do I talk
wind?
about? Yeah.
Wind madness isn't excuse for wind rudeness. It's a Futurama reference, which is... I'm going to say a Simpsons reference.
Yeah. Now, of course, because of their lowering of rations, all of them were constipated, making taking a shit way more difficult, and wiping your ass with with ice. Way more difficult. All that was
It's
way more
fucking
difficult.
hard to wipe your ass with ice when you're constipated.
Well, and dude, you don't want to be out there for too long with your pants down
Yeah.
in negative degree weather.
Also, all of their Type 5s were the exact same.
So how about this ice?
Yeah. How about this ice? You ever try to wipe your ass with this ice?
Yeah.
It's pretty cold out. Let me talk about the weather.
Also, the tears from your eyes and your nose running, it would cause these little icicles to form on your nose, and after a while, you'd have to break them off. And it didn't matter how careful you tried to be in taking these icicles off. Every time it would take just a little bit of skin, and so you'd have this raw patch on your nose. Oh, and this would be a daily thing.
And from the breaking off the ice from the tears, thinking about the girls back home.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah,
I would imagine trying to lick that icicle would be very frustrating because you'd always want to, you'd always try to like.
Your lips would be so chapped.
Oh my god! And if you wanted to drink a water, you take your tobacco tin. And you would put some snow in there, and then you would hold it against your body until it melted, and you'd have a little drink of water.
Ooh, that sounds kind of nice.
That's all you can do. That's not nice. That's like a pain in the ass.
I mean,
because it was hard to melt because
the little things.
Well, they're cold too, so
everything is cold. Yeah.
They should have brought a fucking an electric kettle.
Yeah.
Honestly, they should be drinking that butt wipe snow. That probably got melted.
That's where all the flavors at.
Yeah.
Their rations were so low that they were down to one hot beverage a day, which consisted of a cup of hot powdered milk.
Ooh.
Which got more and more watered down as they started to run out of more and more of it. And you would have that was your breakfast with a lump of sugar. And you would have, at night, a bowl of warm hoosh. And what hoosh is...
Not hooch?
No, hoosh. And what hoosh is it's an Antarctic food. The only Antarctic food that the Antarctica probably has. And all it is it's seal meat with broth.
Where'd they get the broth?
Well, the broth is created by the seal meat.
Yeah. So it's seal meat plus seal meat.
You boil the blubber to get a fire, you burn the blubber to get a fire, you melt the ice, and then you put the seal meat in, maybe with a little bit of blubber, and that's it.
I like how there's literally one animal and you get all your food from that. Or penguins.
Well, actually, the problem with penguins is they're real small. There's not much to eat on them.
You need to get those emperor penguins.
Right.
Well,
they're nowhere near them, but yeah.
They have trace amounts of blubber, but they also have trace amounts of cocaine, and that's the reason why they were called the original Coca-Cola. And
That's why they're in those Coca-Cola commercials.
Why do you think they're dressed in tuxedos? Because they're looking fancy doing their rich people drugs.
Soon, they had to shift their camp a little bit of a distance away from Mark Time Camp because the cracks were forming. And they were like, we can't risk it. So they switched it over. This time they called it Patience Camp.
Because it's running so low.
Yeah.
Patience? The cracks were forming in more ways than one.
There you go.
Right? Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
So when the blubber and the food problem seemed at its worst, this was February 20th, they woke up, all the men woke up, and the whole ice pack around them was full of thousands of migrating penguins.
Dope.
And they didn't use any guns or anything because, again, precious ammo. So they crept up to them.
Choked them out.
And they clubbed the fuck out of them, is what they did. And they eventually ended up, by February 24th, they ended up with around 600 penguins. Now, that sounds like a lot, but again, these penguins are maybe 2 feet tall, maybe 3 feet tall. There's barely any usable meat on them, and barely any usable blubber.
And they're adorable.
Yeah.
What are they, mostly feathers?
Mostly cuteness. These men are monsters.
So what
Puppy
you're saying...
killers, kitten killers, penguin killers.
It bought them a week.
Yeah.
600 penguins bought them a week.
It sounds like the penguins was the equivalent of like one nugget.
And no dipping sauce.
That's the worst. That's hell on earth.
Yeah, I know, right?
No dipping sauce?
Wait,
Are you
what?
kidding?
Whoa.
You bring me a 10-piece with no
I thought
barbecue,
this was
no
bad,
sweet
but
sour.
I assume they had dipping sauce this whole time.
So with gale force winds blowing from all directions, it seemed, because it would seem like they'd wake up one day and the wind was to the south, and then it was going to the north, and they were like, and they couldn't take any measurements because they couldn't see the sun or anything. It was too cloudy out. But every once in a while, like, the sun would come out and Worsley would check their position. Turns out they were moving maybe due north 2 miles a day. Paulet Island was 94 miles to the west. They were moving due north, and they knew that if either there really isn't a strong current in these areas, but they knew if the wind kept blowing them due north, they could miss Paulet Island.
Is this talking the Atlantic Ocean?
This is talking. Well, this is kind of if they went due north, they would eventually hit the open sea. And if they hit the open sea, they would hit the dreaded Drake's Passage, which I'm going to get to here soon. But
there's no way they could ride that ice floe to Jamaica, right?
No, certainly not. Soon it was clear that they had indeed missed their chance to land anywhere near the peninsula. They even saw like an island go by, and they were like, "We can't do anything about it. There's no way we can."
Everyone's
launch
waving
the boats.
from the shore.
You can't launch the boats because they'll be crushed, and you can't move over them because there aren't any decent ice floes to be on top of, other than the one that they're already on.
So the people on the island were like, "Hey, the other day, did you see out on the shore those guys that are fucked?"
There's no one on the island.
Oh, I don't know.
Because again, they had to move overland to the other side of the peninsula to
Well, the
Wilhelmina
first
Bay,
part
where
where I was
they
talking about
might
them
be able to
waving
find
at the
somebody.
island, you didn't stop me, so I assumed there was people on the island
No.
waving back at
I
them.
imagine it was a tropical paradise.
Me too.
So their new plan, their new prospects, because the wind was blowing them also a southeast on some days, but they kind of had a bit of a northern current that they could possibly land on either Clarence Island or Elephant Island, which were their last shots. It was a long shot, but it was their last shot. And Worsley, with his limited navigational tools at his disposal, had to keep them on somehow had to keep them on an impossible northwest course, and somehow land on an island that is a mere pinprick on his map, and they could make no mistakes. Otherwise, they would miss it too.
I mean, I used to ace swamp rats that size back in Baker's Canyon. It's not that much bigger.
I remember you did that.
Yeah.
If they did miss, then they would be forced into the Southern Ocean, into Drake's Passage. Now, let me tell you about Drake's Passage.
They gotta listen to Hotline Bling constantly. That sounds terrible.
I was thinking of like the not dragons, the Drake's Passage, you know?
The other dragons?
The other dragons.
Imagine Dragons?
Imagine Dragons.
No,
Yes.
he's like thinking like Drake's.
Drake.
Wyverns.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Drake, who...
The rapper.
Yeah, he sucks. I mean, he did Hotline Bling, and it was the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
He was
I
also
hope
in
you're
Degrassi.
I hope you're listening, Drake,
Yeah.
to our podcast.
Chris is coming for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna drop a diss track any day now.
Like Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, did he do that to Drake?
Well, he dissed him in
His spare time.
Yes, his spare time.
no during
King Kunta. I
King
remember.
Kunta, yes.
King
yes.
Kunta was that
Yeah,
song.
Yes, indeed. This part of the Southern Ocean, and it's at the very bottom of South America, and kind of where the peninsula of Antarctica, right that spot in between there, are the roughest seas on Earth. At least some of the roughest seas on Earth. These waves, they're called graybeards, and they're hundreds of feet high and miles long. So they're inescapable, and they are just giant. And they will kill you too. you know? And they have, and they will again. Even the Navy to this day is like, yeah, that place is rough. It is calm 10% out of the year.
Why don't we just...
Why are they so angry?
Yeah, I know.
Well, because it's that passage where there's land, and it kind of forces the ocean through this narrow passageway. So the water's like being forced. It's like a funnel, right?
Okay.
You put gentle water into like a slim funnel, and it comes out really fast on the end, right?
Ain't nothing fun about it.
Nice.
Nice.
Yes.
Perfect.
I did it.
So on March 9th, they're about ready to go back into another Antarctic winter. Everyone awoke, though, to the unmistakable feeling of the ocean swell. That means they could feel it rise and go down. They could actually feel the open ocean. And like they're all like, oh my god, could this be that we are getting closer to something where we could maybe launch the boats if these ice packs separate? And they're like, yeah, because then we could actually do something about our situation. And Worsley, like, he counted the waves, like, in between waves. 18 seconds meant that it was absolutely sure that this was the open ocean, signs of the open ocean. Because anything else other than that, there's also, like, these lower current phenomena that can create the illusion of the ocean swell. And a few of the guys were like, this could be that, but it wasn't. It was the unmistakable ocean swell.
And he well actually lead them into their fucking place.
Right, yeah.
Mansplained. Because there's only mansplaining when there's, 28 men.
It's all men.
Well, that and he sat there like all day. Because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
This was both a really good thing and a really bad thing. The good news, if the packs break up in a certain way, they could launch the boats and maybe make a break for it. The bad news is the ice pack could still pressurize and crush the boats if it didn't separate enough, or if there was a change in pressure of the pack. Also, they could be swept out into open ocean into the Drake's Passage. The bad part was absolutely more possible than the ice pack just moving miraculously away. That was absolutely minuscule. There's no way that was going to happen. Either way, it also meant that the ice floe that they were standing on and camped on was eventually going to break. Considering that the weight of everything on it and the fact that the ocean swell kept tipping it up like that, it was just going to snap and break at some point, like because it's going up and down like that. So they started to run drills to make sure that they could get everything together in the least amount of time. And what that did is it kind of made all of the men aware of how little food they had. All their stores could be easily fit on their boats, and they're like, oh.
And they're running around. They got those hungry bellies.
Yeah, man. But the pack didn't change. So they're still sitting there. It's starting to swell. Pack is not changing. And the men were starting to get worse and worse. They were totally soaked through, including their sleeping bags. Everything they had was completely soaked through. There was no moment of dryness for them, ever. And anything that was wet was frozen.
Frozen, yeah.
Frozen over.
So they all have that not so fresh feeling. Everyone keeps on asking about the suicide gun and then being like, just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't it be crazy if we all just killed ourselves, guys? Just kidding.
That's part of the Type 5.
We all have the same Type 5.
All the Type 5s just get darker and darker.
It's all about using the suicide gun.
Hey, you guys ever wonder what the difference is between being alive and dead? I bet you it's way better being dead.
They actually never really thought about, or at least they never wrote about it in their diaries, never thought about killing themselves ever.
No, people were tougher back then.
Yeah, these guys were made out of something else.
Our generation constantly thinks about killing ourselves.
Yeah. And I've never been cold and wet my whole life. These guys have. The temperature was negative 10 degrees, okay? And keep in mind, they still have the watch system because they have to watch for cracks. Because at any moment, it could break and they would have to all get up. So they need the watch system. When you got up, like, you take your boots off, your boots are frozen solid when you woke up. And you would have to, like, cram your foot into frozen-ass boots.
That sounds
like Grandpa's crazy old story about how I had to walk to school up hills both ways.
But this is actually true.
It sounds like almost as bad as having to listen to Hotline Bling.
The rations were constantly being cut down, lower and lower. They were subsisting mainly on pemmican, hot powdered milk, water.
I thought you were going to say Hot Buckets.
No. And cold biscuits. They had like tins of cold biscuits.
Typical Brits.
Yeah.
Wait, are they actual biscuits or cookies?
That's a good question.
I'm going to assume the British biscuit, so cookies.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking
chip.
too. They made some cannibal jokes at Marston's expense, because Marston was kind of the plumpest one out of all of them, and they would joke around him. They would be like call pieces of him, be like, I got his thigh, I got his ass.
I'd be doing that too.
And they'd be like, Marston, don't go skinny on us, because if we gotta eat you, I'm gonna have that piece of you.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Well, Marston didn't like it one bit.
Fuck Marston.
And he'd see them coming, and he'd be like, oh, fuck, and he'd walk away.
They're gonna make jokes about how fat I am.
About how much they want to eat me.
Except this time, they're coming around with forks and knives in hand.
Yeah.
They're like, Marston, how come you don't have any suicide jokes in your Type 5? We're all hungry.
Yeah.
It is like that Looney Tunes thing where they look at him and he turns into a ham.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Occasionally, fights would break out. There was one kind of big fight where they were all kind of fighting amongst themselves about really nothing.
Who got to eat Marston?
And Lionel Greenstreet was holding a cup of his hot milk in his hands, and somebody was gesturing wildly and knocked the hot milk out of his hands.
Oh, shit.
I've done that at a bar.
Yeah, and everyone sat there silent, because that was his ration of hot milk, dude, and it's gone now. And he wasn't a part of the fight, and so he just sat there with his cup, like, totally forlorn. But this is a testament of the kind of men these people are. A few of them, it turned into a bunch of them, refilled his cup with their hot milk.
That's the right thing to
Aww.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like the
do. My wild gestures have knocked over many a beer in a bar.
And you did not pour your beer into their glass when you were done.
You
Thank God
just
for that.
order them. You put your next one on my tab. That's what
Yeah,
you do.
yeah.
Oh,
It's kind of the same thing.
not
Only
it's
no one's
not.
starving.
Well, it's exactly the same.
Put some pemmican in his cup. Tell him to
It's
shut
like, here's some pemmican. Shut the fuck up.
What is this? Yeah.
It's the ultimate
pressed fat.
survival food. Yeah.
You had a beer, now you got pressed fat. You should be thanking me.
Yeah. This will last months.
Yeah, you're not going to die tonight.
Kill it.
You alright, Chris?
Sorry.
He'll make it.
At one point, like a giant iceberg, they almost hit a giant iceberg, and they watched helplessly as it barely missed them. Because they would have been dead if that would have happened. There's no way they could.
It'd be better if it was 19...
The Titanic couldn't even take that.
No.
1912, 1911, 1911.
Are you-
And they're like, push it towards that way. And they're like, ooh, that was close.
Yeah.
And then you know, that
I
was
believe
like...
it was 1910, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 1910, and well, either way, what I'm saying is, if they were the origin story for the Titanic,
We're all doing a Titanic
it's a
thing.
dumb fucking thing. It's stupid. Let's just cut this whole part out.
No, we definitely won't.
No, now it's definitely going in.
Ah, jeez.
And by the way, they can't get on an iceberg. Because if you get on an iceberg, it's nearly impossible to stay on. But if there's too much weight on one side, it'll tip over.
But I thought there was more under than on top.
There is, but still, like, it'll still shift over. It's not like an ice floe. It's not like a fairly flat piece of ice. It's an iceberg.
That is one list I wouldn't want to be a part of. List?
Oh my god, that's a deep cut joke there.
That's the second
Tyler.
time I've used
You
that
did
joke.
use it.
Yeah.
I didn't get it the
when
first
the
time.
boat listed the first time.
Yeah, that's a term.
So,
It's a
few
nautical-
people.
allow
few
me
people
to
are gonna
explain what
understand.
just
Yeah, but
happened
all
here.
you know.
Zach, please, I'm confused.
Please, Zach, explain Tyler's joke to everyone.
All right, audience members. So Tyler,
He made a very smart joke. I'll give him credit for that.
He made a very, very smart joke, and we are not so very smart boys. So when he was referring to listing, he takes his fucking hand, pointing upwards, and then decides to rock it back and forth to
Simulate the mast of the boat.
simulate the mast listing.
Or the top of an iceberg listing.
Yes.
I still
Get
don't
it.
think it's funny, and I think
Rocking from left to right.
Turns out we're not that smart boy. We're not.
I think we need
The
to
history
cut,
boys aren't smart boys. We actually spelled boys wrong on our main thing.
Oh. I think
we
everyone-
really screwed the pooch on that one.
everyone
I
else
thought it was
is,
BOIZ this whole time.
Somehow I made it through public school.
everyone's been spelling it wrong. We're the only ones spelling it right, baby.
Yeah.
At one point, Orde-Lees actually collapsed while they were working because Orde-Lees, he was the storekeep, keep in mind, and he had this fear that is totally justified of starving to death. So he would keep his rations like in his pocket, like a chunk of it, so he could like save it for later. And he had only eaten half of his rations, and his rations were really small, so he collapsed. And he later recovered, but I mean, it shows you kind of how desperate they're getting.
Right.
You guys ever afraid of? I have this crazy irrational fear of starving to death.
Yeah, it's not irrational.
Well,
It's a
everyone's
completely rational fear. in this
everyone's
case.
had like half a sugar cube and like a fucking thimble
Hot
full
milk.
of pemmican. They're like, yeah, dude, we're all afraid of starving to death.
Man, that's how I feel whenever I get home and I don't want to cook. I'm like, God,
I know.
Yeah.
Like
nothing here. I'm gonna starve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been this hungry.
And just plain scared.
you've never
I'm spooked.
been totally ripped before either.
These
Comes
guys
with the territory. Yeah, they must have looked sick without their shirts on.
So on March 26th, they were down to 1/2 pound of pemmican, a half ration of watered down milk, and they were running out of blubber, so sometimes it wasn't always hot. And if it was a really cold day, you get a lump of sugar for breakfast, and of course the seal and or penguin hoosh for dinner.
How
And
big
that's
a
it.
lump of sugar we talking?
Maybe like a small ice cube or
Like a
small
cube?
sugar cube. Yeah, sugar cube. Sugar cube is sugar.
Nice.
Yeah,
They're living like kings.
yeah.
See, but what no one knows is that each one of those sugar cubes had a single drop of liquid LSD on it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fucking seeing those
Seeing
music
some-
notes.
You see some stuff. You know?
Yeah,
See Frodo flopping around.
yeah. Flopping around. They kept seeing more cracks ominously form on their flow, and they're looking around, and there are no more decent flows. No more. There's no way.
There's not a flow to be found.
Yeah.
All whack-ass flows.
So the flow finally split, and the frantic men worked to get everything to the larger flow. There was a food store on one side had to be tossed across. Actually, I forget at which point, at which time, but there was one time where it cracked right underneath a tent, and the guys like piled out, and it was at night. You know, this is again the Antarctic winter, so it was at night, and all these guys are like trying to put on their boots and trying to find which boot is theirs, trying to put on the clothes that is theirs, and they're all trying to figure that out. And the tent, what is so fucking funny?
I just hate having to frantically find my shoes.
I'm thinking about the guy who's got one boot on and he has one foot on each ice floe, and maybe one boot's on the one that's far away, and they're splitting apart, and he's like, "Whoa!"
No.
Because that immediately, that's the first thing I imagined. I'm sorry.
So
sorry.
the tent though, it was Shackleton's own tent, and he's out there shouting orders, you know, like trying to get everyone in order. He notices that, oh shit, there's still a guy in the tent, and the tent went under with the guy still in his sleeping bag. Because again, you're exhausted, you're cold all the time, and he started to go under. The two flows splitting apart. Now, keep in mind, these flows could, at any moment, clash together and smash anything that was in between. Shackleton himself miraculously reached down in, pulled the guy out of his sleeping bag, tangled up in the sleeping bag and in the tent, and pulled him out. And sure enough, the two flows smashed together right after he got him out.
Damn.
Saved the dude's life. And he was completely frozen. Completely frozen.
Either that, or he was like, I thought this was the moment. This is the moment that I was going to be free.
Yeah.
And you robbed me of that.
Yeah, right.
You robbed me of that, Shackleton.
There was no way of getting him warm, so they walked him around the ice floe just to get him warm from moving around, just to get his blood flowing, and that's the only way they could get him warm.
That guy hated everyone there.
Yeah, he was completely frozen.
Keep on walking around, man. Keep on walking around. He's like, you motherfuckers. I thought this was it. Sweet release. I got nothing back at home.
You got that bullet says Frank on it? Like,
So again, at a very low point in their rations, this sea leopard poked its head up, and Frank Wild whipped around and saw it, and he was right next to his tent. Luckily, pulled out his gun, took a knee, and fired and shot this giant sea leopard, and boom, They had another 1,000 pounds of meat. They had 2 weeks of blubber, and inside of the sea leopard were 50 undigested fish.
Nice.
So
Eat that
boom,
fish.
it was a game changer, and
Fucking
their moods,
baby Burton, that shit.
yeah, dude, their moods changed instantly from complete and utter despair to, hey, all right, it's a lot easier to survive on a full stomach.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, fun fact.
Yeah.
That sea leopard was like, I've come to tell you, there is a kingdom to the north. I will give you rides. Come with me, and I will bring you warmth and hunger.
Blew its brains up.
This dumb animal has fish inside its belly, guys.
But now, because of this whole cracking incident, there was a new watch system. And half the men would be 4 hours on and then 4 hours off. Free to do whatever you wanted for those 4 hours off. But you switched constantly.
Oh, I'm going to be fucking around on my 4 off.
And a lot of men did, because how are you supposed to sleep?
Yeah.
With 4 hours, freezing ass fucking cold, how are you supposed to sleep? Especially paranoid. And so on these watches, the men were allowed one luxury. The ones waiting around. It was a single match. So they all gathered around it with their meager stores of tobacco, and they all smoked their pipe. And it was their little luxury that they could have.
That sounds good.
That sounds
Standing
great.
there.
Occasionally, one of the men would say, I have an additional match. And when they'd be like, where? And he'd be like, my butt in your face. And then they'd all high five.
Got him.
Yeah.
So before the floe was about a mile wide. Now, since it cracked, it was about 200 yards across.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
God damn it.
Yeah. And it wasn't long before the swells of the ocean to the north made the ice floes rise up and down and break apart again. The launch of the boats into the open water would be foolish because the ice packs were not opening. So they waited, and Patience Camp continued to crumble more and more day by day, and they had to wait. Patience Camp was now 100 yards, by 120 yards by 90 yards in sort of a triangle shape.
Oh,
Everyone
God.
was standing. Like, there's no way you could actually set up
And one
a
guy was
decent camp.
constantly telling people to get the fuck out of the way because he's measuring the ice floe that they're standing on, and they're getting in the way. They're messing up his measurements.
Again, nothing to do.
Yeah.
So you may as
So
well.
I'm just gonna. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep in mind, like, you're not standing on solid ice at this point. It's starting to, like, crumble beneath you. So you're standing in pools of water now. This thing is going to sink at any moment. Still,
Why didn't they just get in the boats?
because the ice pack hadn't cleared. And again, it would be ridiculous to get in the boats because the ice pack would crush you.
No, like if rather than standing in fucking melty snow, ice and everything,
The weight.
The weight would sink the, boat
weight-
down further.
Yeah. You have to evenly distribute the weight across the flow, or you're gonna either tip the flow or
Right.
break the flow again.
Okay.
Why
The-
even go? Why
still-
go here?
Still, Shackleton had to wait.
But that stowaway is really biting himself right now.
He was now totally a full-fledged member of their crew.
Yeah.
You know,
He was
like,
just-
everyone accepted him. But yeah, that would suck to make that decision.
Like I made that was a misstep.
If they did leave that ice flow, it was the only decent one anywhere near them. And once you left it, there was no going back. So he had to pick the right moment to do it. And after 14 months as a whole, from Ocean Camp to now, 14 months on the ice, on April 8th, the ice pack opened up, miraculously. They didn't know how long it was going to open up, and the order was given to launch the boats and to make a desperate try for either Clarence or Elephant Island. And that is where we're going to leave you for part 2 of Shackleton and the Endurance.
Why would
there's
you
a
go
whole-
there? Why would you go there?
Because I want to be famous.
The call of adventure,
Adventure,
man.
dog.
You can put a 2-liter bottle in your butthole and put it on TikTok and be just as famous as these guys.
These days,
These days.
Honestly, probably these days be more famous for that.
Yeah.
maybe.
Nobody remembers Shackleton. That's why we're telling you
that's
about
why we're
it.
telling you.
If some guy was like,
He's
Hey,
way cooler than anyone on TikTok. I'm going to tell you that right now.
popping up on YouTube.
I can't
Hey
name a single
guys,
person on
I'm in the
TikTok.
Antarctic.
'Cause I'm fucking in my 30s.
Because I'm an adult.
Got a top 10 list.
And I don't even know what TikTok is, really.
It's a thing.
Like people lip sync, I guess?
I think so.
Is that a thing?
They lip sync.
People go to act like idiots on the internet.
There's
Oh.
a lot of dancing.
They dance.
There's a lot of dancing.
Ted dance?
That's a
Ted dancing.
that's a hard pass for the old Jerman.
Yeah, that sounds right.
My
But-
wife and I like to watch TikTok videos while we fall asleep and mock the kids.
I thought you were going to say, well, we fuck.
While we fuck.
That's the only way I can
When,
get
when,
off.
when we do the whoa.
Yeah.
Or whatever those dance moves are.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you again for listening. We got more for you. Like and subscribe, whatever it is, all the bullshit. Follow us on all the bullshit.
We got the Instagrams and
We got
the
the
Twitters and the
Instagrams,
Facebooks.
all the bullshit.
Feel free to send us a singing telegram.
Sure.
Yeah.
Send us a telegram.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Send us a telegram. Like if you hate our podcast,
Yeah.
send us a singing telegram about why. Otherwise we're not gonna read your thing.
Yeah. And
Like-
it will mean so much more to us.
It's like
if that's
you
the
guys
case.
suck. You guys are like toxic assholes.
We're not
you-
toxic.
They might think that. That's subjective.
I feel like that's
I'm
weird that you
toxic.
went there,
I'm
though.
a nice
I
guy.
mean, yeah, we're all really nice guys. I mean, you know,
I would like
I
think
just-
so.
I'm not saying you guys are toxic assholes.
I know
saying
I'm a
the
nice
person who
guy.
sends a thing who thinks that.
Some future man said that.
Some futureman.
Yeah, give us a review. You know,
Send
the
us an
subscribe.
email.
Send us an email.
Fucking write a comment. Some shit.
History Boys.
flags,
We're
smoke
podcast.
signals,
Podcast at
little
gmail.com.
mirrors.
Okay.
But historyboyspodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Anyway, signing off, Jerry Nash. Again, thank you for listening to History Boys.
I'm Tyler. I'm a history boy.
I'm Chris Whedon.
I'm Zach. And yeah.
Zach's a
Cool.
history boy.
I'm
We
a
do it at
history
the
boy.
end too, right?
Yeah, we do.
All right.
We do it at the end.
We do it. We've been doing it. We keep doing it.
Everyone's been drinking.
All right.
Enjoy the end music that Zach wrote. It's very strange.
It's so good.
I'll see you next
Bye.
time.
All right, see you next time.
We had a lot of fun. We'll see you next time. Or I guess we won't, whatever.